Living every day in your head for free. You can tap away, but I will not hear you scream. You can break the keys, spread your toxicity, your world outside reality. In your room, a little hideaway, but you let it through. Enough to go insane, living in the dark hasn't treated you well. You're building your did I brush you off? Is it your lack of friends? We never met, even if you pretend. Am I in your debt? I don't owe you nothing. Don't say something you'll regret. Hate, rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Hate, rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it. I'm telling you, don't waste it. Lies telling you, don't waste it on me.
From Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And today we have a very special episode, Dutch, because
Yes.
we have, thanks to you, we have a very special guest coming in about an hour or so.
Yeah.
We will have Joe from Hypercharge. You guys know the game Hypercharge, the toy soldier game.
Yes.
Super excited. Launch day in 8 days,
Yes.
May
Yes.
31st. And we're going to have him on. He'll join us in about an hour, and we're going to pick his brains about all things Hypercharge and everything else we have to talk about. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But first, Dutch, let
Yes.
me welcome our awesome community. I see the chat is filling up with a lot of familiar names. A big welcome to you guys. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you guys enjoying whatever game you're playing. Probably a lot of people have been playing Hellblade, and we'll definitely touch on that in just a few minutes. But Dutch, also big welcome to you. How are you doing today?
Yes, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm glad it's nearly the weekend, and in the UK we have a public holiday on Monday, so got a nice long weekend coming up. And I'm gonna do
Sweet.
I'm gonna do my Hellblade review on the weekend because I've captured the entire game. I recorded the entire thing, so I have plenty of footage to use.
Nice. So I didn't record for this show the entire game.
Yeah.
I actually cut the gameplay in certain pieces and then put them back together so that I can show gameplay of Hellblade 2 if people vote for it without spoiling the game too much, because that's always the problem with these very like story-driven games. But it helps that you won't hear the audio.
Yes.
And I cut out certain parts of the game.
See, the good thing is I've included the recap at the beginning of it, but I've also included, obviously, the first, should we say, hour and a half of the game isn't too heavy on kind of spoilers. It's more the tail end, I think. So I think even if you did have the first 2 hours of the game on here, you'd be all right, because the rest of the game is really the remaining 4 and a bit hours, 5 hours that you get out of the tail end of the game is where the story's really spoilery.
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't include like the first hour or so, because I felt also like you have to just experience that opening. And so I tried to put together continued gameplay without spoiling too much. So if you guys vote for Hellblade, we should be good. We should be good. But as always, I leave it up to our awesome community what we're going to watch. But so far, Hellblade is leading the poll in the chat. So yeah, we'll leave the poll up for a couple of more minutes so that you guys can vote what gameplay we're gonna watch. And Dutch, let us start with the show. And as always, we want to hear from the community what you guys have been playing. Before we get to Hellblade, has there been anything else that you played?
No, is the short and sweet answer.
Okay.
I have been so in depth in that game. I think I've played, before Hellblade released, I played even more of 100 Heroes, IGN Chronicles, because that's the other game I'm on top of at the moment. So once I've finished kind of playing Hellblade again, because I'm going to do that, I'm going to be playing more 100 Heroes for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, I've been doing exactly the same. Before Hellblade came out, it was mainly IGN Chronicles and a little bit of Starfield. And believe it or not, I have like 150, 60 hours in it. So quite a lot. 150 hours in the game, and I encountered my first real bug in the game. Yeah. I'm in my New Game Plus playthrough, and I'm loving the, next gen or current gen patch at 60. Actually, I play it more in 40 FPS because I feel like you barely see any visual sacrifices, but 40 feels so much better than 30. So enjoying the 40 FPS mode. But I'm doing the Rujin, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ruyen quest line. And there's some, I need to talk to a certain character, and that character just won't appear. So I Googled, and it's a known bug. There's a solution on PC with console commands and such to open or to change that. But it's totally bricked. And it's the only quest line I have left in my New Game Plus playthrough. So I hit a little bump there, but then I've been playing also IGN Chronicles 100 Heroes until Hellblade came out. And after finishing Hellblade, I actually played more of IGN Chronicles because I'm absolutely loving it. But yeah, I think Hellblade is the game of the week, obviously.
Yeah.
Let us know in the chat if you guys have played anything other than Hellblade, of course. And if you have played Hellblade, let us know as well. Let me just real quick close the poll. Hellblade surprise here. No surprise, actually. Hellblade 1. So we're going to watch some Hellblade. Again, I tried to edit it a little bit so that I'm not going to spoil too much. But yeah, Dutch, let's talk about Hellblade. Let's do it. What did you think? You finished the game.
Yes.
I finished the game.
Yes.
Without having review copies, review codes.
Yep.
What did you think, man?
Yeah. So I've played through 1.5 times so far. I'm going through a second playthrough now. I've done I've 100%ed it, so I've went through and found all the collectibles. And again, I'm a sucker for Norse and Viking lore. So for people who really like Viking lore, absolutely go and get the collectibles. You do unlock a couple of different things in post game if you do the collectibles as well, which is a heads up for people. So if you want to have a new narrator, and I'm not going to spoil who's narrating it, but if you want to have a new narrator, then get the lore stones or the lore pillars.
Do you have to get that? Because I didn't collect all the lore stones, and after finishing the game's told me I can do a New Game Plus playthrough with different narrators.
Yes, and there's another one if you get the lore stones.
Ah, okay.
So there's three narrators to unlock. One's for completing the game, one's for getting the lore stones, and then you get another kind of lore option for collecting all of the trees, the hidden faces. There's another another thing you unlock in the menus that allows you to kind of view that as well. So there is benefit to unlocking them for people who want a little bit of replayability and getting different perspectives. Because it's one thing I liked about it is that the new narrators don't just narrate the same lines as the previous narrators do in a different voice. They actually give an entirely different perspective from the narrator themselves. So whatever narrators you choose to use for your playthrough next time round after that, it's an entirely different perspective. That aside, in terms of gameplay, huge Hellblade fan. I've been waiting for the game since they announced it. Absolutely loved it on all three of them. I've got it on PlayStation, on Xbox, on PC, on Switch. So I've got it everywhere. Finished it multiple times. I've got the 100% on the original game. But this one for me, naturally, we were expecting something beautiful. But this game really does stand apart. And there were certain sections of the game, and we can't go into spoilers, but the certain sections of the game, I'll say a forest section because that doesn't really narrow it down.
Yeah.
A forest section in the game where I literally just walking through towards the exit of this area, and it looked like a video of someone just walking through a forest. It just looked like someone in costume walking through a forest, and I was like, if I didn't know this was a game, I would think this was a film. And it was just insane, like the level of detail. And I'm not just talking about the fine detail on the clothing and the characters, but I'm talking about the way the lighting is in the character, the way the lighting kind of diffuses in the air if there's a little bit of fog, the way it bounces off everything. It's phenomenal. Like it is by far the best looking experience / game that we've seen on console. Maybe he's even seen on console and PC, if you're excluding modded games where people have went hyper realistic on games on PC. If you exclude kind of mods and things like that, from a stock perspective, this is the most hyper realistic game I think we've ever seen, and it's absolutely
I totally
insane.
agree. Like you said, there are certain parts in the game, like the first boss fight in the game. You, not spoiling too much, but you stand in a fog whilst doing so, and honestly, the animations and the way how the skin and the lighting on the skin and everything looks, I was like literally thinking, okay, we have arrived at photorealism. There are other moments in the game where it looks a little bit more video gamey, but at some points in this game you just think, okay, photorealism. Really, you can't distinguish it from like a movie. And it is, like you say, absolutely bonkers what they've achieved. The lighting, the animation, the texture work, the the little details in the world, like that forest section, how the wind moves the trees and leaves and everything, it looks just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And that's even we're not even touched on audio yet, because there's so much to talk about when it comes to visuals.
Yeah.
You're talking about hyperrealism as well, and there's another. Without spoilers, thankfully I can say this. You'll know because you finished the game, and anybody who in chat will know because people that might finish the game in chat. There's a certain section where two characters kind of link hands like this in the story, Boxy.
Yeah.
And that looked like just two hands meet each other.
Yeah.
Like, it was that realistic. It just looked like somebody recorded people two and doing that in a dark room. And I'm like, whoa, like, this is just like the level of detail. But it doesn't even just stop at that. The fact that in photo mode, it shows you that it isn't just CGI. It is literally the game. And you can just do
Rendered
anything
in real time.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out for that photo mode. That photo mode is probably the best I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
The fact that you can position your own lights
Yeah.
to do that. You can get rid of the black bars, by the way.
Yes, you can choose
change
different
the aspect
perspectives.
ratio
Yeah.
to 16:9, and you're golden. An absolutely amazing photo mode.
Yeah. It is. There's another thing they've set the bar at. I think there's quite a few things Ninja Theory have set the bar at in this game, and graphical fidelity is absolutely one of them. The second one is the audio, which we'll touch on shortly. But that photo mode is a benchmark for what photo mode should be. The fact that you can go into any of the cutscenes, which are actually just in game, just well narrated, and literally place the lighting wherever you want, or you can do this, you can do that, you can change all the perspectives, you can change the character movements, where the character's placed, like whether or not to have lighting on, whether or not to have the lighting on. Like, there's so much you can do in photo mode. It's just absolutely phenomenal. That is what a photo mode should be in every game. I don't care what you you can position the focus wherever you want on screen. Like, you can go a manual focus and just go, I want the focus over here, and I want the second focus over here, and that's what we'll do. It's just nuts.
It is, and I don't get why more developers pay attention to have a proper photo mode at launch, because in a lot of games they are going to be patched in later. Remember Jedi Survivor, for instance? They launched without a photo mode, and then like 6-8 weeks after launch, they patched it in, which is always cool if developers try to improve the game. But most people have played the game by then.
Yeah.
And photo mode is basically free marketing. Because when people go online, on Twitter, on Instagram, or wherever, and are able to share those great shots from a great photo mode, people are going to do that, and that's like such a great way to get free advertisement. So yeah. But coming back to the game,
yes, I think next one we have to touch on audio. Has to be audio.
Yeah, audio. I was just about to say that. The binaural audio recording in that game is absolutely awesome. I tried it for like 5 minutes almost on my surround system, and it just isn't the same.
No.
Don't get me wrong, it's still a great audio, because the recording quality alone is absolutely fantastic and probably bench on the market. Like crispy, sharp voices, insane quality of like sound effects, you know, when you walk through on the beach or through water, and like these sound effects, absolutely top-notch quality. The way how they bring in music and change between music and voices that you hear, it's like absolutely fantastic. But if you put on headphones, that's where the game shines. The binaural audio is just bench on the market. There's nothing that comes even close to it. And they put a lot more focus on the furies, the voices in your head, you know. They basically narrate the entire game now. They were in Hellblade 1 as well, but not to the same degree. Like, and it is so well done. Like, also how the voices walk from left to right side in your ear, and it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it is outstanding, and the one thing I liked about it is, I think the first one felt a little bit more intense to people because the first one, the voices inside your head were, for the most part, your own voices degrading you for the entirety. So saying you're a failure and you can't do this and you're gonna lose, you're gonna die, and the entirety of
Yeah.
of the first game is essentially them putting you down and saying you can't win, you'll never be successful, you're gonna fail. And in the second game, it changes it up a bit. You've got this looming, deep, like guttural voice. Is like some like demon slash god. That's the bad one, the evil one. That's saying that you're gonna fail. And your own voices are the opposite. The own voices, for the most part, are extremely supportive, and they're just like, don't listen to them. Like you can fight them, kill them, do this, and they're like egging her on as almost they're kind of pushing her forward. You can see the kind of transition between Hellblade 1, where her voices were controlling her, and Hellblade 2, where she's kind of got control of it a little bit more, and the voices themselves are kind of more of a force, a driving force to keep her going. And on that, again, phenomenal job. I like that they've got this counterbalance of her own voice as being the support, and this demonic, deep guttural voice is the one of evil, and the one that's kind of trying to stop her and put her down. Another thing as well that I noticed, and I hope everybody noticed as well, when that deep guttural voice speaks, the entire screen turns like a red color whilst it's talking. Has like a little red haze goes over when he's talking, and then it clicks back off as soon as he stops. And that's a really nice touch to it as well. It's like a visual aid to it. But yeah, outside of the voices, then you've got the sound of the music in the background, or the war drums, or you've got the sound of chants in the background, or you've got nature that you can hear, and the footsteps and the streams and the crashing of the waves and the waterfalls and the wind and branches moving in the wind, and it's just so phenomenal. But again, we expected no less from them because of just how well they did the first one. It was just so well done in this one, and you have to praise as well the acting from all of them, because I thought the acting and the voice acting from all of the characters was phenomenal. It was believable all the way through. It was really well acted, really well acted.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Now my battery of my keyboard just died, so I have to switch that in parallel, but we can continue talking about the game.
Yes.
The criticism of the game is basically around lacking gameplay. What do you have to say about that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we all come into the game knowing exactly what Hellblade 1 was and what we got out of Hellblade 1. So all I wanted from this game is to do everything that the first did and better, significantly better. The one thing I liked about this game is, although the puzzles were in, predominantly, because there's another thing people hate, although the puzzles were in, and we still had some similar puzzles, we didn't have many of, especially the line-up things, we didn't have to do them a significant amount of times. We had maybe 3 times, 4 times at most throughout the entire game, and they weren't that hard to resolve. We had a whole new puzzle system which revolved around some kind of Inception thing, with some bubble, and it changes the perspective of the world, and you've got to go and find some things. But again, it's an exploration game, it's a narrative game on that perspective. But I know full well what I was coming into. I knew what Hellblade 1 was. I knew exactly what Hellblade 2 was going to be based off Hellblade 1. I think the criticism is based on something that nobody said it was going to be. They didn't say that the combat was going to change significantly. They never said that. They said they're going to refine the combat. And they did refine the combat, and very well, I must add, because the combat in itself feels meaty, impactful, brutal.
Yeah.
It feels like you're actually in a fight, and it's very intense when you are in a fight, especially the big fights. And that's what they'd done to refine it. It was an experience. It was the way that they'd done that fight sequences, and the way that you fight against them, and how brutal that can be, and the way that the sword marks are kind of left on people, and giant wounds, and the way that you kind of go into people and fight them is very well done. So I don't. The criticism for me comes from, and it's very strange. It comes from people that expected Hellblade 2 to be something that it wasn't never going to be. They never said it was
I
going
think
to be
that is the
something else.
biggest problem. I've seen like people say, well, it's not like God of War. And it is, it never tried to be something like that. It never tried to be a hack and slash action game. Hellblade has always been the first one, and they never said the second was going to be something different. It always has been a story-driven game, a game that is about immersion, that is about realism, that is about story and dealing with psychosis, and it is an action game. Of course, there are action sequences in that game.
Yeah.
Like you said, they definitely improved the combat. It feels heavy, impactful, it's gory, it's brutal. You never fight like more than one enemy at the same time.
But it still feels like you're surrounded.
Like making every encounter feel like meaningful, and not just you're slaying away 500 monsters or something. Like they never tried to achieve that. And you can argue all day long, is it the most gameplay rich the game ever? Probably not. One of my absolute favorite indie games ever is Firewatch.
I love Firewatch.
There was
Artful Escape. Artful Escape.
Yeah,
we loved that game.
Love that. I wouldn't even say that it's a jump and run. It's like
just run along the screen.
Literally, what you do is you run along the screen and press X to play the guitar. But not every game has to have these deep gameplay mechanics. And Hellblade simply tried to achieve something different, and I appreciate Ninja Theory doing that. And I think that's something we always wanted from the Xbox game studios, give studios the freedom to do the game that they want, and not force certain mechanics in there. And I felt actually quite surprised that they shook things up along the way. Because yes, you have, like in the first one, the riddles, and you have the combat that is significantly improved. But you also have like these, how do I explain it without spoiling? Like action sequences where you run. So have to run in certain parts, and it's not like these quick time events where you have like a sequence going on and then press X at the right time or something like that. That's not what they did, but I felt like, okay, that's a cool thing that they tried to bring in there, to bring some pacing also into the game. And I'm not saying, like, again, it's the best gameplay I've ever experienced in a game, but it doesn't have to be, because overall I feel Hellblade is, and I said this on Twitter as well, is an experience. It's the game is for me, it just all comes together with the insane visuals, the bench on the market audio design, and the atmosphere. I think besides the visuals and the audio, I think the atmosphere of this game is just what makes it so special. It is dark and heavy, and you feel, along with Senua, the troubles of psychosis, but also they develop her out, because the first was like really focused on her dealing with her inner demons.
Yeah.
And the second one is, how can she survive in a world with others whilst having those demons? And I felt this was a really great continuation of this, and the atmosphere was awesome. I was a little scared seeing all the previews and trailers and so up front that the game is like always playing in this dark and rainy
Yeah.
and gritty area, but no, they have like so many parts in this game where you walk across the beauty of what is Iceland, great sunsets, beautiful lush forests, great, like, I don't, not deserts, but like canyon
Yes. Yeah.
regions, and all in broad daylight, where you can really appreciate all the visual fidelity that it brings. And I felt like just an insanely good atmosphere. And then you walk from this beautiful lush forest into the cave, and then you have this claustrophobic feeling of a cave with her dealing, and then the torch goes out, and you like, this is what makes Hellblade so special. It's not
Yeah.
a super complex gameplay mechanic, it is the atmosphere that makes this game so outstanding. And I really feel it is an outstanding game.
Yeah.
There are certain nitpickings you can.
Yes.
It's probably, I didn't gave it a 10 because I feel like a 10 is, people throw the 10s around like crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel it's like,
you know what it is? It's very hard for me to judge a game on a 10, because that would suggest it was perfect or close to perfect. So it's
perfect for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I only gave, like, I would say there are probably only like 6 games out there that I gave a 10, and the last one that I consider a 10 out of 10 was The Witcher 3, which is now 9 years old, by the way, this week.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to The Witcher 3. So yeah, I see some people just do that, every game they enjoy, yeah, masterpiece, 10 out of 10. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10, but nevertheless, I think I gave it a 9.3.
Yeah.
And you can argue whether it's a 9.1 or 9.5 for you, but it doesn't matter. It's just a number. I gave it a 9.3 because I felt like it's not a 10, but it's a little more than a 9 for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Edging a little more that way. Yeah.
It is, because I absolutely loved the experience from start to finish. And the other big criticism is, of course, its length. And here's where I have divided opinions on this, because on the one hand, I don't need every game to be a 30, 40, 50 plus 100 hour plus game. I really don't. I rather take a 6 or 7 hour experience like Hellblade 2, where every minute feels meaningful and well crafted and well thought out with great pacing, than a bloated 100-hour plus game. On the other hand, I played through that game in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And I was like excited for this game for like 5 years plus now. Ever since its original reveal from 2019. And we knew before that they are probably working on a sequel after the massively successful first one.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this game for so long.
Yeah.
And then you kind of play through that in 2 evenings, and then you move already on, already playing the next game again, and of course having a little bit a longer experience like connects you a little bit more to the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you play a game like, I don't know, The Witcher, let's take that again as an example. Yeah, after you finish that game, you feel so at home in this world, and you feel so attached to Geralt, and Jennifer and everyone, you know, because you spend so much time with them. You don't get that with a 6-hour game.
No.
You know, it's a you pick it up, you enjoy every minute, but you finish so quickly. And again, I rather take that than an unnecessarily stretched out
Yeah.
game. But of course, I would have appreciated to at least play it for like 10 hours because I enjoyed it so much,
Yeah.
you know? So here I really do have like a divided opinion on the game length. I don't feel like it deserves to be criticized that heavy like I see it online.
No.
And people saying, okay, it's a 6 out of 10 because it is just 6 hours long. You know, that's absolutely unfair.
Yeah.
But of course, I would, simply because I enjoyed it so much, I would have loved to play it a little longer. And since Ninja Theory put so much effort into making this game and really outdid themselves in every single aspect, from visuals to audio to story and narrative and atmosphere and everything. I also hope that the hype continues a little longer.
Yeah.
Because by now, like 2 days after launch, almost everyone online has already finished it. And then people, of course, move on to the next game and will stop talking about it and how good it is. So I hope that's not going to happen. But I feel like after this weekend, probably everyone has finished it, and then it had its moment of fame for 1 week, and then it moves on. You know, I hope that's not going to happen, because it should be celebrated what Ninja Theory did. But of course, having such a short game comes. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm rambling on here.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I think I can understand people, especially myself and yourself. We love the game so much. We do wish it was, the story was just that little bit longer. And I can understand that. Of course, I'm always did that, especially 100% in the first one. I was always going to 100% this one, so I was always going to do the exploration and looking around and trying to find the lost stones and things like that as well. So I did that, got as many as I could in the first playthrough, didn't overanalyze it. If I missed any, I wasn't too bothered because I knew I was going to play it again and mop up the rest of them. But I also, if we're looking back at Hellblade 1, Hellblade 1 had a lot of sections that were bloat. They did what they could with Hellblade 1. They crafted a very great experience, but there was the puzzles, for instance, there was far too many of the same puzzles very close to each other. So you'd do this, you'd line it up, you get the next area, you'd have to do another puzzle, it was exactly the same thing, you'd line it up, and you get the next area, and it was exactly the same thing, and you'd be like, Christ, this is back to back. And that was a lot of the bloating in the first one to kind of stretch out the playtime of it. And I think the first one, if you take out some of them puzzles, which weren't really necessary, would have really trimmed down the game because they didn't add any story to it. There wasn't, I think the pacing in this one significantly better than the first one. I think the pacing in the first one starts off good, and then you get through this section where it's just solving puzzles forever, and then you get the next section, and then like there's a section at the beginning almost before you start going through to Hella, in that section where the story's kind of grinding along a little bit, not so much progressing. Where I think the story pacing in this one was significantly better. I think the puzzles didn't disrupt like they did as much in the first one. And as such, I think overall, the amount of puzzles to gameplay to exploration, etc., compared to the first, is better significantly in this one. Just the pacing of the game overall, and I think the story pacing and the fact that it always keeps you in the loop. There's always something happening. There's always a story going on. I won't give my rating on here, but there's a few things that I like that a lot of people might not have picked up on visually from this game that also adds to it that I noticed in this game, and people might not have noticed this either. But on the beach at the very beginning of the game, when you're fighting one of the characters that comes along with you for the rest of the story, she notices that he has the rot as well coming up, but you don't have the rot per se on you in that game. It's not a problem. It's not a worry. And it clicked when you've played the full story as to what that rot actually symbolizes, because it isn't a physical illness, it's a mental illness. And the rot symbolizes your mental illness or your mental issues taking control of you and you losing the fight to your mental issues. Now, the further you go on in Hellblade 1, the more you take damage and the more you lose and the more you fail, the rot grows. And the reason you die is because you're letting your mental illness take control. You're letting your mental illness win because you haven't got that fight anymore and you haven't got the drive and you're just failing. And that's what the rot symbolizes, is that physical illness or the mental illness that goes alongside it. And as we know from that particular character that you find on the beach, he does have a kind of an issue that he's dealing with, a deep down problem that he's having to come to terms with later on in the story, and that symbolizes what his mental issue is there, his mental problems. So I liked the physical representation of mental illness as well as the voices that you hear. But ultimately, yeah, it's not perfect. There is things that you'd wish, like you say, you'd wish it was just a smidge longer. Of course we do, because it's a beautiful game. It's so well acted. The story's great. The action's great. The scenes are great. Just everything that they've done is phenomenal. You just wish it was that smidge longer. On a side note, yes, probably wish they'd maybe even, if they were going to do puzzles, maybe add another kind of different thing in there, or another kind of thing to do in there that kind of changes up the game a little bit more. Just to kind of keep you on your toes. Maybe change up or add a couple of little different bits of weaponry you can use instead of just the sword. Maybe you can grab an axe off the floor and use the axe, or something, So just a couple of little bits. And then, aside from that, performance-wise on Xbox, it was phenomenal. But there were a couple of scenes closer to, and again for spoilers, I can't really mention it, but closer more to the tail end of the game where it was these big sequences and it was a couple of little micro stutters that I noticed in a couple of sections. And it was literally brief moments, but it was a couple of little performance stutters in there as well. But judging by the kind of requirements it takes to run this thing at a decent level on PC as well, they've done a cracking job of getting this thing performing at a solid 30 at the resolution and fidelity that they have done on Xbox at what is ultimately a very stable 30 frames all the way through. And I have to admit as well, it's the kind of game you can use at 30 and it's absolutely fine. Like, there's at no point in there would I think, nah, like I don't like this, because the pacing of the game, the way it runs, the way it plays, it's absolutely fine at 30. Yes, you can have like Luke belting it out in like the ultimate settings and on PC. He's gonna get 100 odd frames, etc. One thing I did see as well through looking at a few of the PC settings things is there is a couple of little bugs if people are using mouses on PC, which is strange.
Okay.
If you kind of zoom in and do like a zoom in with the E button, I think it is on PC, and you look at the low stones or anything like that, the mouse cursor will appear on screen and stay there until you open the menu up and then close the menu down, and then the mouse cursor will disappear. But it'll do that both during combat and looking at low stones, and then the mouse cursor just stays on screen. It's a really weird bug.
I booted it up on PC just to see how it looks and runs and everything, but I played it with a controller on PC as well. So
I think a lot of people are recommending that.
Also
for
tried
PC.
it, by the way, on the ROG Ally.
Yes.
Which I recently learned it's not called the ROG Ally, it's called the ROG. That's how
Republic of Gamers, yeah.
Yeah. If you watch, I watched their event, on the successor or update.
Yeah.
Pardon me. On the update, and every time someone from Asus talked about that, they said ROG Ally. So okay, but I'll still call it the ROG Ally. And yeah, it's actually runs really well there too. You have to turn down, of course, the settings naturally, but in docked mode, you can get it to run also at good 30, in between 30 and 40 FPS. And having a smaller screen makes, of course, up for losing some of the details. So absolutely playable there. But I did my main playthrough on Xbox, and like you said, for a console version, it runs really well. I think we need to mention also how finished the game actually is.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing. I didn't encounter a single bug. Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 sequences where you felt like a little hiccup in the frames,
Yeah.
but for the vast majority of the game, it felt like, granted, I had VRR on all the time now that I'm saying it out loud, but it was like a flawless experience. No bugs, no glitches, no nothing. Just a finished, polished game.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say that, but it's kind of rare.
Yeah. Finished,
in
polished,
the year
and
2024.
with all of its features at launch. Yeah.
Yes,
It's got its
everything
post-game content. It's
included
got its
is
photo
included.
mode. Everything.
Yeah. It's just a finished and polished experience. So,
But
yeah,
ultimately, I just don't get the people that are hyper analyzing this thing as something that it isn't. It definitely doesn't deserve anything less than a 7. I can understand why some people would think it was a 7, because ultimately, for some, it might be a little bit slow. They might not like the voices all that much, or they might think the game's too short. And fine, those are very reasonable things to have an issue with. But to try and I've noticed reviewers do this all the time, though. They always compare it against what the game wasn't ever going to be. Say, right, well, if we look at this game and like we expected it this and this and this, well, why? At no point did the developer say it was going to be any of these things.
Yeah.
So why did you go into
it when I pick up Forza,
Forza
Motorsport, and then start complaining about not having a story?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, what did you expect picking up the game? And I get taste is different.
Yeah.
Totally.
But people that are like saying they absolutely love the first one and the second one's terrible, that is false. It's completely and utterly false, because it isn't.
Yeah.
It just
Absolutely.
isn't. It's exactly, if you love the first one, you can't not love the second one, because it is exactly what the first one did, but better. And I don't also understand the people that were saying that the story was muddled. At no point throughout the entirety of playing that game was the story muddled or incoherent or didn't know what it was talking about.
Yeah.
It was completely and utterly legible from start to finish. I knew exactly what was going on. I knew what the story was. I knew what was happening in the story. I understood the plot and what was going on throughout the entirety of it, and what those actions or repercussions were going to be because of that story.
Yeah.
I don't understand people who were struggling to understand the story or thought it was incoherent, because it wasn't.
I totally agree, and it's, again, taste is different, but that's why I should never review a FIFA.
Yeah.
Those kind of sports games are not for me.
Yeah.
If I would play that and would have to rate my personal enjoyment of that game, I would have to give it a 3. And is FIFA a 3 out of 10? Probably not. Yeah. And so, again, you can always say, taste is different. But if you try to provide a serious and an honest review, you can tell, okay, this game wasn't for me, but in no way is this game a 6.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not.
No.
The game, again, does what it tries to do and tries to be so well. And if you can't appreciate that, then the game might not be for you, but it doesn't make the game a 6.
Yeah.
Or less.
And then you've got the same people saying, I didn't like the first one, this one's trash. Well, if you didn't like the first one, what were you expecting? Like, you're not going to like the second one, then are you? Because it's exactly the same as the first one.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like,
Exactly. So, yeah.
and
It
again,
is what it
I want to
is.
say as well, when it comes to the length of the game, there's another thing that we have to weigh up. Thankfully, the voices weren't as intense, but they're still relatively intense when you're wearing headphones for a longer period of time. And that's another thing to kind of take into account with if you were doing this game for 10, 15 hours, having those voices going for that long would be extremely intense, and it might it might be a little bit too much. I think the way that that's done, there's no other game that's done Psychosis the way that they have done. There's no other game that's portrayed it with the voices that the way that have done it. It's very intense experience, and it's meant to be. I think having it too long I wouldn't say it outstayed its welcome, but it would have been a little bit more intense on the head, and you couldn't just sit there and play it all the time. Much like we spoke about with the likes of Alan Wake, etc. It's not the type of game you can get home and just relax with. It's not a relaxing game. It's an intense game that requires you to just focus on it, like really focus on it.
Yeah, true.
So I think maybe he's like I can understand if people are murked about rushing through it and being a 5-hour game, but I would never rush through a game like this. There's just too much beauty to behold. There's too much to look at and see and enjoy and visually just take it in, because no developer has done something to this level yet. So enjoy it for what it is. Don't start rushing through things. There's no need to rush through it just to be the first to claim you've done something or to something like that. Just enjoy games. I wish people would just get back to enjoying the medium again.
Yeah. I agree. All right, Dutch. Any finishing thoughts before we move on?
No, I'm gonna
Hellblade?
put my full in-depth thoughts into a review on the weekend, so I'll
Nice.
put that on with a rating.
With a rating.
Yeah.
With a rating. Yeah, so I put my rating already out on Twitter, so gave it a 9.3.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic game. It's a fun game. It's a little short, yes. But again, I rather play 6-7 polished and well thought out hours than 100 hours fetch quests.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it is on a technical level a masterpiece. It from visuals to audio, and the atmosphere is just insanely good. So I absolutely enjoyed it. I will do a second playthrough, not right away. Give it some rest, but in a couple of months, I'm definitely going to do another playthrough because I absolutely enjoyed it. So,
100%.
All right, Dutch.
Yes.
Let's take that opportunity and move on from Hellblade. We're gonna have Joe on in just a few minutes, and before we going to pick his brain about Hypercharge, let's talk about some other topics. Basically, breaking news happened just before the show. Xbox announced that Call of Duty is getting a developer direct after the Xbox showcase. It's not like a surprise, right? I mean, honestly, everyone knew that like 10 seconds after they put out the redacted developer direct.
Yeah.
And they also put up the homepage and revealed the first teaser trailer, looking stunning.
Yeah.
But it looks like CGI, so really can't judge on it. But yeah, Call of Duty is getting its own developer direct in actually just a couple of days. It's like 2.5 weeks now that we have showcase season. I'm super hyped for showcase season. It's like every year I will probably forever call it E3 season, even though E3 isn't anymore. On June 7th, we get the Summer Game Fest, which is probably going to be an interesting show to watch. A lot of different developers are going to be there. Yes, it's a Jeff Keighley show. They expect a lot of advertisement, but I bet there will be some cool games there. We have a couple of big reveals yet to come, like Dragon Age and others that we all expect this year to see. So wonder what will happen there. And then we have on June 9th, the Xbox showcase with the Call of Duty Developer Direct. So what do you think about this Developer Direct and Call of Duty? Does it make sense to you, man?
I'm glad that
do
they're
that
not having
for a
Call of Duty in the main showcase, because that allows.
Oh, it will be in the main showcase. There will be a trailer.
They'll just do a
in
teaser
the main
thing,
showcase.
like after the show, tune in for the full Developer Direct. But I mean, in general, they won't like make a big deal of the Call of Duty. Like, they won't have a huge trailer in the main showcase. Be like a little thing like watch after the show for the full breakdown or whatever, which would be good. But ultimately, I like how they are focusing primarily on the other games in the Xbox Game Studios portfolio.
Yeah.
And not Call of Duty, which is getting its own limelight. And naturally so, because it's a juggernaut, much like the likes of Fortnite and everything is. It's massive, so you have to, otherwise that's all people would tune in for.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of want people to tune in to the Xbox showcase, and even if it's just for Call of Duty, because then they will see what else do they get when they subscribe to Game Pass, because it looks like Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass after all. And I totally understand that they do a developer direct, because giving Call of Duty its own show basically helps to attach the name Call of Duty to Xbox. And that's what they really want to do now, right? Yeah. They want everyone to know, okay, Call of Duty has its home on Xbox. It's an Xbox game. It is in Game Pass. It is like, yeah. And therefore it gets its own developer direct. The counter argument you can make, of course, is, for what do you need like such a reveal for Call of Duty? Because everyone knows what Call of Duty plays like. Everyone knows how it looks. And it is like, there's really, when you think about the 45 minutes that they gave Starfield, it made sense because nobody knew what the game is and they had to explain the game. Yeah. Whilst in Call of Duty, do you really have to explain the game? Unless the rumors are true and they are going to do the Far Cry type of campaign,
like
then you could
make more of a big Battlefield type open worldy Call of Duty.
Whatever.
Well,
so unless they do something
different. I saw one of the playtesters quote tweeting Call of Duty and Black Ops as well, and apparently they've been playtesting the game for 2 years. So this has been a Call of Duty that's actually been in development for significantly longer than a regular Call of Duty has been. So not just a year like regular. So yeah, this one, fingers crossed, does have something different. I'm glad, and again, Call of Duty is the only game I do this with. I'm glad I'm not going to have to buy this one up front, because we have been let down, specifically on Call of Duty, with the campaigns being lackluster, or especially with the price tag that you have to pay for them. A full $70 to $100 for a Call of Duty, and the campaign is 4 hours long. Like, I can understand the hit on that, because it's a $70 to $100 game, and you're getting a 4-hour campaign. Well, then ultimately all people are buying it for is the multiplayer. Which, again, being in a service like Game Pass is where they're going to make their money anyway. Not on the $70. It's going to be the microtransactions, the skins, and the battle passes, and all of that. So, obviously, it makes sense to be in the service just due to that. That's where the vast majority of the money comes from. Is the multiplayer section of it. But I actually hope this time around that the campaign is really good. I really do. I want a really great Call of Duty campaign again. We always remember fondly the Call of Duty campaigns where Ghost gets killed, and everyone's like, "What the?" Like, going through that campaign, and they were great campaigns. and I don't think they've lived up to that since. I just don't think they've got close to that campaign quality.
I agree. I'm not a big Call of Duty multiplayer guy either.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy these 4 or 5 hour campaigns. I always say they are like a Michael Bay movie, you know, turn your brain off and just have fun for a couple of hours. And so yeah, I'm interested to see the campaign. And I'm glad I don't have to put down $70 to play the 5 hours, unless it's really something different. So we shall see. Just thought it was interesting, and I wonder why they did the redacted thing. It probably was supposed to be funny.
I think people. I don't know why they thought people wouldn't crack that in like 0.2 seconds. They're like, it's Call of Duty.
Yeah, true that. Listen, we have a couple of other news this week. I want to start with IGN.
Yeah. Yes.
The monopoly. IGN, the monopoly. IGN acquired a bunch of media outlets from gamesindustry.biz to Eurogamer and a couple of others. And it really put a big question mark in my head. Not because I don't know why they are doing it. Yeah, of course, they want to grow. They want to be the market leader, which they kind of already are. But when Xbox tried to acquire ABK, the big fear about having monopolies, you know, becoming monopoly here, and we don't have competition anymore, and we have this and that. Now IGN kind of is that. Yeah, they basically own now all the major gaming media outlets.
Yeah.
The ones that try to have like the games industry as a whole, the business side of things under it, with GameIndustry.biz. You have the Eurogamers. They are very much related to Digital Foundry.
Yeah.
Every Digital Foundry analysis is put up through Eurogamer. They have a strong collaboration there, and all the others. Yeah, they all are now under the roof of IGN, and it's no secret that we are not fans of IGN.
Nope.
I think IGN and Kotaku and so they stand for everything that's wrong with modern day gaming journalism.
Yeah.
You know, they have very one-sided reportings. If they don't get like an exclusive coverage of a certain game, they basically no game has a chance to get like praise from them. So basically you have to kind of buy your way into a good headline into IGN. Almost everyone that writes or does videos for IGN kind of comes across to not have knowledge about gaming, video games. Almost everyone. There's always the exception that proves the rule, but like very unserious and unqualified staff that they have, clickbait headlines, very biased reportings. Like I could go on.
Yeah,
IGN is just what is wrong with gaming media. There's no investigative journalism anymore. There is no real knowledge about video games or the gaming industry from the so-called journalists there. Way too much unbalanced reportings and reviews and everything. And they basically control now the vast majority of the gaming media landscape. And nobody talks about that. Everyone was so concerned about Xbox becoming a monopoly when they tried to acquire Activision. But the way how we get news and reports and reviews is basically now a monopoly, and from a very unprofessional side So yeah, Dutch, I wanted to definitely talk about this during our podcast. So what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Like, I worry for mainly for the quality of reporting that is going to be represented with one media company owning all of, essentially, the vast majority of the large games media sites that there are. Like, that doesn't seem like a really smart move, and it's not going to be something that is going to present something that isn't biased towards something one way or the other. It's like, if one company, for instance, bought half of the football teams in the UK, how could you say that wasn't a conflict of interest? Like, because it would be. And if you own the vast majority of the media sites, then how isn't there going to be a conflict of interest? You want one thing to happen, and then another thing happens, and they all report the same thing. They all report the same headlines. They all essentially have the same staff. They all, in terms of reviews, like this again, there's another issue I feel, and I've always felt this way about IGN in general. You get reviews for IGN UK, IGN US, IGN Spain, IGN Brazil, IGN Japan, IGN, like an why do you have to have 55 different reviews from the same outlet? And now we're just going to add even more, because now they're getting 50 reviews from the same outlet. So like, what's the point? How can that not be an unbiased review stage? And you're going to have, what, 13, 14 people reviewing the same game for your group? That doesn't really make much sense. Nor does it look like it's going to be unbiased or...
Think about Metacritic.
Yeah.
Basically, the Metacritic score is now given by IGN.
Yeah. Yeah, the vast majority, yeah. The vast majority. And it's again, these smaller media outlets, these independents, they have to do what they can do. But then the problem with the independents is that they try to do so out a lot of the times either far too much one way or far too much the other. They're either giving ridiculously low scores, or they're scoring perfect tens because they want to get in well with the studios. Like, then there isn't really a good... Now there's no real... You can't look at many sites and say this isn't conflict of interest or unbiased, because there is that. That is exactly what gaming media is now. It's been going steadily downhill for quite some time. But another thing that we have to talk about this consolidation is that, despite reporting on consolidation, how Microsoft's a big bad guy for letting people let their jobs go, a significant amount of people have just had their jobs let go by IGN.
Yeah.
So
a lot of staff has been affected. They got rid of the redundancies, what they called it.
Yeah.
So exactly the same what like everyone was doing just this week. PlayStation Studio London, their studio, London studio, shut down for good. Yeah. There was no outcry about that, but there was definitely an outcry about Xbox shutting down studios, you know, and they do the exact same thing. And of course, they are not reporting on it. Don't find the headlines on IGN or Eurogamer or GamesIndustry.biz.
Yeah.
Now, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna get very one-sided reporting, and if at least I would consider IGN a professional website, but they are not. They've shown that over and over and over again. Yeah. That they really don't understand video games or the gaming industry, and such an unprofessional journalistic mother company now owning basically all major gaming media websites is just not a good thing.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, the problem, like I say, the problem we had previously for me was just so many different IGN articles that it would inflate or deflate the score depending on how they felt as a company. Like, the fact that there was, like I say, 5 or 6 of them from around different IGN branches around the world, right, doesn't really make much sense. You have one person reviewing the game for IGN, not one person from every nation that IGN happens to populate.
Yeah.
That's just artificially inflating or deflating the review score. If they so much deem so.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. But I just wanted to make sure that we don't leave that uncommented
No, definitely not.
here. And I can only suggest to everyone to check out really good, smaller video game news outlets. Yeah, there are some good ones out there. Seasoned Gaming, for instance, and lots of gaming.net, stuff like that, sites like that, that also do quite a good quality report. And just be on your heels when you read the big headlines from the IGNs, and don't believe everything you say, or try to build and form your own opinion. Because we are getting now very one-sided reporting for sure. Yeah, definitely. And Happy Cloud Gamer in the chat says now content creators will be an important voice. Yeah.
We also have an issue with the problem is we've got an issue with content creators as well doing clickbait and constantly doing clickbait, and they get away with it, and they don't care because it ultimately gets them views, and that's what drives them. So it's about making sure you find someone that is going to be content creators that is going to be impartial, that are going to weigh up both sides of the argument and say, okay, well, this is this and this is this, and ultimately weighing up both sides, this is the conclusions we come to, but not give, okay, this is fact, this is etc., because no one knows anything as a fact unless it's literally written there and it has happened.
A fact.
Yeah. So
it's like, that's a very good point you bring up, because you also see that, of course, with a couple of content creators. Dustin Lambert in the chat mentioned Streamcast guy. I'm not going to call out like particular names here, but sometimes I see that a lot of people mix opinions with facts. I always say, like, saying, I don't know, cancer is bad is not an opinion. Like, you know what I mean? That's just a fact. There's nothing good about it. So, and you see that kind of arguments a lot, where people either try to sell opinions as facts, or facts as opinions, and that makes it very difficult sometimes to distinguish. So again, I can only suggest to everyone, try to build your own opinion. I think you and I, we both try to really make sure what is our opinions when we talk about stuff, and what are facts,
100%. That's why we always say, what do you think about it, and not, what is this? Tell me what this is.
Exactly. Not a good day for gaming media sites, but it is what it is. I just hope everyone that got laid off bounces back real quick.
And finds himself a nice, reputable gaming media place to go and report for.
Exactly. All right, Dutch. Let's move on to another topic. I really don't have a good segue, so I just come out with it.
Yes. So by the way, people in chat as well, for Hypercharge guy, it's the reason he's kind of drops in when he can tonight is he's going to have a baby scan. So it's good news for him. So ultimately, as soon as he can come back from his baby scan, he'll be on the stream. So we're going to do our best to kind of talk through the topics until he arrives. So it's all good things for him. But yes, we'll crack on until he does.
Exactly. Microsoft had a big event this week regarding the future of PC in their Surface lineup.
Yes.
They've shown a lot of laptops now with ARM as an architecture, with an ARM architecture. They also mentioned that basically all major apps and software that most people are using on a daily basis are now natively compiled for ARM, and with that they combined a lot of the co-pilot, so the AI stuff. The ARM chips that they have now in the Surface do have a dedicated NPU, which is a neural processing unit, basically for AI tasks, very similar to what NVIDIA has been doing for many years, ever since they introduced the RTX cards. They call them the Tensor cores, yeah, and so native hardware supported AI basically, and they've shown some games running on that, yeah, that have been emulated, yeah, from the obvious thing with Minecraft to Borderlands to Baldur's Gate 3, and the performance was actually not too bad, not bad at all. Like definitely not comparable to a full-fledged gaming PC, but overall very surprising. The Surface with the chip running with their ARM chip running actually outperformed Apple's lineup in every aspect, from battery life to performance to everything. So why do I bring that up in a video game podcast? Yeah, we are not talking usually about Surface stuff.
Yeah,
but we have heard Sarah Bond talking about the next gen Xbox multiple times as providing the biggest generational leap ever. And I was wondering when I looked at this, well, are they really daring to go ARM architecture for the next Xbox? They have also talked a lot about the AI stuff, and that not just NVIDIA is going to support NPU NPU improvements, but also Intel and AMD are going to support that natively with a dedicated NPU. So making it sound like, okay, even if they're not going to switch to ARM, the next Xbox definitely has a dedicated NPU in it. And with that, they've shown some cool things, not just upscaling. Yeah, they've shown Minecraft, yeah, and they've shown an AI assistant there. Like, you could ask, okay, how do I craft a sword? And the AI just told you, hey, you gotta go to this menu and do that and that, and things like that were also shown there. So that's why I brought it up here, because I love to talk about technology. That's no secret. But I also wanted to hear, of course, your opinion, man. What do you think? Is ARM or the NPU thing something we are going to see in the next Xbox console?
It could very well be. It could very well be. It would be ultimately untested in that field ever, because obviously ARM is relatively new to the situation, so it will be the first time we'll have seen a console take advantage of it if they choose to go down that route. But it sounds like they're definitely exploring the possibility of using ARM. And it would definitely be fascinating to see how that would relate into big, high-end, high-performance games that require significant performance in order to get them running. Because we know NVIDIA, we know AMD, they're relatively reliable. We know the chipsets that they're producing. and who they get them from, and they've always been reliable. So ARM would be ultimately untested in this field when it comes to high-end game performance, and how that would run, or the future of gaming would run on an ARM architecture. So it's certainly going to be fascinating. It would definitely change the industry up in terms of what both consoles potentially could be capable of next gen. If Xbox were to switch architecture and go for an ARM instead of AMD or Nvidia,
an x86 architecture,
it would be very fascinating. I think things like AI and things. I think we're definitely going to see continued implementation of how AI is really going to get used, or not just for guides and help on games and things like that, but we're going to see more and more of that being utilized. The only one that we'll really see full kind of utilization of AI to a bit bigger extent so far has still been Flight Sim, with its AI weather generation and real-time AI weather.
Yeah, but that wasn't done locally. That was done in the cloud and then downloaded. So yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I would love for either one of them, PlayStation or Xbox, to change things up a bit.
Yeah.
Because we can argue all day long. PlayStation 5 only has RDNA 1.5, and Xbox has full RDNA 2. But let's face it, they are basically the same console.
Yeah.
For one of them to go out and do something different architecture, leave AMD behind, and let's say Xbox goes with Nvidia and Intel for CPU. You would change things up a bit. It would make things much more interesting. It would be finally very interesting to watch the Digital Foundry comparison videos again, where you have an actual difference in technology and a difference in how the games run, and not just, okay, I zoom in 800 times and then I see a pixel is a little bit more distorted in the one on the one platform than on the other. So just from a technical point of view, it would be very, very interesting to see. Maybe I'm just a little bit too hesitant when thinking about ARM, because it's cool that they can emulate a Baldur's Gate 3 and get it to run at close to 30 FPS now, or Borderlands 3, which is a 5-6-year-old game, and a Minecraft that looks like it was built in the 80s. You know?
This is what I hate about laptops as well. When you see laptop or desktop comparisons for frame rate, and they always use Fortnite. That's the least demanding game you could possibly use on showing frames per second.
Ever since Fortnite runs on Unreal 5, it is actually a demanding game, and it is a good looking game. But I do get your point. I totally understand. And so it's very interesting that they are confident enough in ARM to actually switch their Surface lineup to ARM. So Microsoft definitely is confident about Windows running there, and all the Office and all major apps. They also announced things like Adobe is now natively compiled for ARM, and so on. And I think that's cool and great, and it will definitely put Apple in a position of competition, competition is always good. That's really a good thing. And do I want that for my console? See, here I'm divided. Again, it would be interesting, but I also want really, really good performant games and good looking games, and not just a 30 FPS Borderlands. And I know it is early years. It's got in 2 years from now, in 3 years from now, in 4 years from now, this will definitely improve. But so does every other chip on the x86 architecture, So I'm a little torn here. It makes, of course, a lot of sense if you think about Xbox doing a handheld, which is what you, and probably everyone here expects them to do. We all expect Microsoft to start the next gen not with an Xbox Series S and X successor, but to have a dedicated handheld plus one regular console, a Series X successor. And of course, ARM would absolutely make sense in a handheld. But then they would divide the kind of the software ecosystem again. So they either have to have really good emulation to make it run on a affordable handheld, on ARM, and have a regular x86 architecture in the base console, which is probably unlikely, because can you think of the nightmares a lot of developers are having? Oh, we have to compile our game for ARM and for x86, just release it on Xbox. That's also unlikely. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. And on the NPU side of things, seeing how Microsoft is now so heavily implementing AI and NPU supported AI in everything from Windows to cloud to Office to Edge to like everything. I would be absolutely surprised if the next Xbox, whether it's an ARM chip or an AMD chip or something else, Intel or Nvidia, if they don't have a proper NPU in that console. I would be super surprised. And I also, seeing what they've shown off with your likes of Borderlands and Minecraft and so on, it's not just going to be NPU support for upscaling. It is also going to be how you interact with the game, how you look up guides, how you they basically said, okay, Windows is going to have a photographic memory now. You can ask Windows now, hey, yesterday I looked at this new trouser online. I can't find it anymore. And Windows will know because the AI learned and remembers. And I think something similar will be also implemented on a system level on the next console, where you just can ask, hey, where am I in the storyline again? And then the AI just can tell you, okay, this and that happened already in the game, or how do I solve this riddle? And the AI will help you there, or you know what I mean? I think that we will see something like that, and for all that, they will have a dedicated NPU in the next Xbox. I'm sure. I don't know what you think, man, about the AI stuff.
Yeah, like it depends on how it's implemented and what it's implemented for. For me, predominantly, I would love to see AI utilized more on things like NPC, to make NPCs more realistic and the way that it's implemented. But strictly for the gaming aspect, AI, weather, just things that make the quality of life of the game and the realism of the game and the immersion of the games a little bit more immersive. That's ultimately what I would like to see out of AI, if with the full implementation of it, or continued implementation with it on consoles. So yeah,
definitely. Let's see what the chat has to say about this. There are a lot of different discussions going on there in the chat as well. Dustin says for mobile, it's a huge step. I think, that's definitely the obvious thing to do. For me, it's so obvious that they want to move to ARM in their laptop lineup. Because that's really where ARM shines. A lot less power consumption, a lot of performance on That's why we have it in our phones. Basically, every phone is running on an ARM architecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
But over recent years, many many game engines have been optimized to parallelize their processes. Yeah, we have this and that many cores on our CPUs, and this and that many cores on our GPUs, and um, uh, so a lot of the tasks and a lot of how modern gaming engines rendering pipelines work is to actually parallelize processes.
Yeah.
And ARM is very different in that regard, where you have like less parallelization, yeah, of rendering pipelines and so on, and rasterization. And so, yeah, since games are mainly built these days for PC and then ported over to console, it would be a very risky move to put an ARM architecture in there. But especially since they promised us the biggest technical leap, which right now, and at least in the foreseeable future, and with that I mean, let's say the next 2 years, I don't think that ARM will be able to achieve what an x86 architecture can do.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. They have something cooking, man. Maybe I'm wrong.
You just never know.
All right.
You never know. It's going to be It's going to be interesting to see what it is and how they do it when they announce it, and whether or not they have went for the entire change. I still say I'd love to see them get back with Nvidia and do an Nvidia based console. To be fair, that would be my ultimate.
Yeah, I totally agree. It would be my dream as well. I mean, they did it for the original Xbox, right? Before they somehow the relationship in between Microsoft and Nvidia fell apart. In the original Xbox we had that.
Yeah.
And the Nintendo Switch still has, and even the successor is going to have an Nvidia GPU in there. So it's not like Nvidia doesn't do consoles anymore. It's just that they don't really have a relationship anymore with Microsoft when it comes to console making. Obviously, they do have that for the cloud stuff. But yeah, I would love to see that as well. The rumors heavily suggest that Sony is not going to move away from AMD. Based on Tom Henderson's reports, they have signed already a contract for a new AMD chip for the next console, and it's not the PS5 Pro. So if that is to be trusted, again, take it with a grain of salt. Very early rumors out there, but they're going to. It looks like they are going to stick with AMD, and for Microsoft to have an Nvidia GPU in there, then that
would make it
have DLSS. Oh, it would be absolutely sweet. So yeah, we shall see. Don't expect anything at the Xbox Game Showcase when it comes to the next gen console. I've seen speculations out there.
Maybe a new controller and a refresh console, but not the next gen.
Yeah.
They've already said we'll talk about next gen at the end of the year, so I'm kind of expecting it now to be doing exactly.
No, they really didn't say that.
Game Awards.
They didn't say that. I've seen that people run with it, but it never was said by someone from Xbox. What Sarah Bond announced is that they are going to have hardware this year. Yeah, that's definitely something. So yeah, whether it's a controller, I would be surprised if it was just a controller.
Yeah, we'll get the refresh.
You wouldn't do exactly. We're gonna get the Xbox Series X Slim or whatever it will be called. I mean, they will come up with some weird ass name, but like they always do. But the Alexa looking one, whether it will look like the Alexa or if they've changed the form factor, remains to be seen. But the one that leaked basically through the FTC trial last year, which runs still at the same specs like the Xbox Series X, but just with a bigger hard drive and better Wi-Fi and so on.
Yeah.
I expect something like that, a slim, but don't expect any talks about
Next gen. No, not in
next
June.
gen in this year's showcase, and not even at the Game Awards. That's just too early.
Yeah.
Too early. Even if they target a 26 launch, it would be way too early to start talking about your next gen console in 2024. It's not gonna happen. But man, I hope that this new controller is real.
Yeah.
And that we, yeah,
Like an advancement. I mean, the refinements that they made to the new Series SX controller was nice. But just an advancement of the controller. So what's next? Like, we've refined it. The controller is great, but let's look at what else we can do with it now.
Yeah.
That isn't just like for the competitor. Like, what can you do to stand out?
Yeah, exactly. And then make an Elite version finally out of this.
Yeah.
Because we still don't have an Elite for the Series X or S controller. Yeah.
Nope.
We're still missing on the Elite 2 the like capture button and things like that. So
Yep.
yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I'm just saying I don't expect Xbox to talk about next gen whatsoever
Nope.
during this year's Xbox showcase. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but we are going to do a big prediction show for the Xbox showcase the day before the Xbox showcase. So on June 8th, Saturday, June 8th, we are going to have a lot of different content creators that even some bigger names. We will have a lot of different people on our prediction show. It's going to be like a drop in, drop out show. People will come in, talk about their expectations. We've done that for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Every time before an Xbox showcase. We're going to do it this year, of course, again. Then we'll also cover, of course, the Xbox showcase itself. With a post show. Gonna have some guests there on as well to talk about our thoughts. And if there's an extended showcase, they haven't announced an extended showcase, by the way.
Not yet. Not yet. Maybe
not
it's a little
yet.
bit closer to the time.
Maybe, but I was actually looking. I was like, did they announce it? No, they didn't. And I looked. How did they do it in the last years? In the last years, they always announced it along with the Xbox showcase. In every original announcement, Xbox Wire article, they mentioned the extended Xbox showcase, and they didn't do that this year. So maybe they are going to announce it just a little closer.
Yeah.
Because I would hope or would love to see an extended showcase. I always enjoyed them. It was cool thing where you got a little bit more insight into the actually announced games. Got some developer interviews in there, some smaller announcements in there. I really enjoyed the extended showcase. So yeah, let's hope that they are going to do one. If they're gonna do one, of course we are going to also cover that here. So it's showcase season, baby. We always try to cover every big showcase. We have to talk about what we do with Summer Game Fest, because Summer Game Fest is super late this year.
Yeah.
It starts at 11, so it's probably going to be finished at around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. depending on runtime. In previous years, with all the advertisement that Jeff Keighley puts in his shows, and the quirky stuff like music and shit, the run time of the Summer Game Fest was pretty darn long.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours plus. So, and then it's the middle of the night for us here in Europe. So we have to think about how we cover the Xbox No, not the Xbox, the Summer Game Fest, but we'll definitely somehow cover it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome time in 2 weeks. A lot of showcases, and you know the place where to watch it.
Yes.
As always, we try to not do like overlays during the showcase. So if you want to watch it here and we don't talk over it, at least on this channel, maybe we do it a little different on yours, so people have the choice and the option. But yeah, you can watch it in its original format, just a little upscaled, so you can watch it in 4040p
Yep.
and 60 FPS, upscaled, and yeah. So we hope to see everyone in the post shows and the discussion rounds. It's gonna be fun times, man. Fun times.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
All right, Dutch. Let's move on
Yes, let's do it.
from our self-advertisement part here. We got some tinier news bits from GTA 6.
Yes.
Rockstar talked about it, and the Take-Two boss talked about the release timing and that he's highly confident in meeting the targeted launch time of fall 2025, and says that the team is very much aware of the importance of delivering with that game, and the team is very much aware of the expectations with a GTA 6, and that they really try to release a polished version, and that's why they take the time, but they are confident in the launch of 2025. So what do you think about this, man?
I think it's.
Will it actually come out, or?
Yeah, and you know where it is. I think they would also be aware that other studios and other games and other developers are also acutely aware of when that game's coming out, and even the likes of PlayStation and Xbox will be very acutely aware of when that game is scheduled to come out. So I think Rockstar and GTA, they also know they've got to be very on point with when they say the release date's going to be, because that will affect the planning of other companies. As much as people like to believe it won't, the likes of Xbox and PlayStation would be idiotic to try and launch a game in anywhere near GTA 6. They know that. It's like it just, unfortunately, it just it would have a massive knock-on effect to when other people plan to release their games. You're not going to get a look in when GTA 6 drops. Don't release your Wolverine. Don't release like anything like that. Like if any game is scheduled to come out next year around the fall of 2025, they'll be acutely aware of, okay, when the hell is GTA dropping, because we can't be in the way of that, because that will just decimate any potential eyes on our new game. So yeah, they've got a lot to live up to. GTA 5 was great. They've built an absolute juggernaut of an online. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for them. Like I say, industry wise, it's a lot for them to have to stick to their time frame so that others aren't affected by it.
Yeah, true that. I mean, we also heard different reportings this week that GTA 6 is super important for the entire game industry. A healthy GTA 6, yeah, and a well polished and well received GTA 6, because GTA 6 is a console seller for both Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah.
Big reason for people to finally upgrade, because we learned, or also, yeah, we are about half of the players on PlayStation and Xbox are still playing on last gen, and who can blame them? There has barely been any reason to upgrade, right? So yeah, GTA 6 definitely important for the gaming industry and for Take-Two in particular. I do hope that they are aware of not releasing a broken game and that they take the time they need to actually polish that game.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they are fully aware of that. So
I
think
think when you
that's
mentioned about people having not upgraded yet, and we've seen that on the console side of things as well. Yes,
yeah.
yes, both consoles are tracking behind where they would want to be now. The uptake hasn't been anywhere near as quick as they hoped it would have been. And I think Tom Warren,
Mm.
I think it was, said he did a kind of survey of people that um, hadn't been there or got upgraded yet, and the reasons behind that. And a lot of them kind of said they didn't feel the need to upgrade yet because there was a lot of like cross-gen games, and games were still coming out for their console, so that was part of the reason. The second was when there was a massive shortage of consoles and they couldn't get a hold of it. And then when they could get a hold of it, then we had massive inflation and price rises worldwide, and everyone was now low on funds, and paying 500 for a console and 70 for games wasn't priority anymore. So there was like, that's just general consumer, but we could have told you that anyway. So the reason for upgrading just wasn't there for them, and it hasn't been. If we're going to be brutally honest, there hasn't really been a requirement behind like
I
general, like making things easier on yourself, and things loading quicker and things running a bit faster. Like outside of that, there hasn't been a need. There hasn't been that standout game on either platform that requires you
yeah.
to go out and buy this.
Well, Hellblade too.
Until now, yeah.
Until now. But no, I totally get the point. Most games still come out on both. If you think about the Call of Duties and the FIFAs and so on, what the casual players have been playing, you can still play Fortnite and your War Zones and Roblox and all those kind of games that the casual market, yeah, plays and cares about. So if you want to play the next FIFA, you can still do that on a PlayStation 4. You can still do that on your Xbox One. For most people, there hasn't been a real reason. And then again, like you said, halfway through or not halfway through, but like 2 years after the launch of the console, we got the massive inflation going around through all, and people have been playing after the pandemic. Yeah, have been playing less and having to pay more for everything. You're gonna think twice about upgrading, obviously, especially if you're only going to play the Call of Duties and the FIFAs and the Fortnites, So yeah, and even if you're more into hardcore or the core gaming segments, yeah, like most of the PlayStation 5 exclusives, yeah, came out for both generations. Yes, Ratchet and Clank was when it came out, console PS5 only game, but is that a game that is like a system seller where people are okay for that I'm going to upgrade and put down $500, and then console prices increased and not decreased. A lot of people usually wait a year or two after a console launch because console prices drop. Yeah, and both of them, Xbox and PlayStation, increased console prices. Yeah, they're now sitting at 550, whereas launch day buyers got it at 500. So yeah, has there been really a reason to upgrade for the casual market? Yeah, and you can argue, okay, on Xbox you got games like Starfield, which is current gen only, and a couple of people probably did make the jump, but is one game enough to bring you over? Probably not. You kind of have to have more reasons.
Well, the new Call of Duty and the GTA are both current gen only, so a new Call of Duty is going to move
a
people.
new Call of Duty current gen only could actually do the trick.
Yeah.
Like that is something where people really okay. If I want to play the new Call of Duty, I have to get a new gen console on both sides, PlayStation and Xbox. Yeah, definitely. And like you say, GTA 6 definitely. Yeah, a lot of even PC gamers are going to buy consoles just to play that. You know, so for me personally, it would be also an Indiana Jones, which is coming up or on the route.
Yeah, but we're
wouldn't be
old
able to
folk, you
resist.
see. We're old folk.
I
We
am-
like indie.
I'm not the normie,
We're old
I'm
folks.
not the normie. Yeah. All right. Our guest is here.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Can you see
We
me?
hear you
Beautiful.
loud and clear.
Yeah. Loud and
Awesome,
clear.
awesome. How you all doing?
Doing well, very well. How about yourself?
Doing well.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, just tired from all the nervous and tired with the build up.
Did it
we
go
can
well?
imagine.
Did it go well?
Did what, sorry, Dutch?
Did it go well? How was the appointment? Was it good?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All very good.
Good.
I can't say what,
Yeah.
because I don't know who's watching, going to be watching, but yeah, all good. So all healthy, which is a big relief.
Yes, nice.
That's
Good to hear.
very
Cheers for
good to
asking.
hear.
Brilliant.
So it's very awesome of you to take the time and come on our show and talk about your game. Thanks for taking the time and joining us here today.
No worries.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Joe, it's been a long ride, a very long ride. We're here. We're at the precipice. We're almost at launch. How are you feeling? Is the nerves still there, or how are you feeling?
It comes in waves. I was saying to my wife when we were walking the dog earlier today, I was like, I hope it's not so much. You've seen it on the live streams, Dutch, and when I've been live streaming, it's not so much like I don't want to sound contradictory here or weird. Obviously, we need sales for us to sort of do well, but we're in a place with, Steam and other projects at the moment where we're able to wake up in the morning and do what we love,
Yeah.
And I just want the nerves. It's more, I just hope the game puts a smile on people's faces on Xbox players. Even if we ended up selling, maximum 100 copies, as long as 90 of those people have a really good time, then it's a win for us. Because we're not in this to be millionaires. Honestly, I don't want to be millionaires. When I was in the family business, painter decorator, we'd work at some big stately homes, big houses, and some of the stories I'd hear about how much having so much money caused problems. It always put me off, So it's not about that to us. It's just. So I just hope people really can feel the love and the passion we've put into it and what we're trying to do, what we have tried to do with the game. And hopefully the game will speak for itself. But yeah, that's where my nerves are. It's more, I hope it maybe lives up to the hype, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's 8 days, right? I got it pre-ordered. On the Xbox, as does Dutch. And we were very much looking forward to, but maybe we have some listeners that just don't have or are pretty much aware about your game. So how would you describe it to our community who might not know what Hypercharge is, and tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the game?
Okay, so to start with what the game is, I'll say what it is mechanically first. So it's a first and third person action figure shooter with a heavy focus on wave-based shooting. So kind of like, fighting hordes of enemies.
Yeah.
And it has a story campaign as well. So it's a wave-based shooter / story campaign. But in terms of what the game is going a bit deeper than that, I'd say it's like it's a big ball of nostalgia sort of rolled with a mix of the late 80s and early 90s, and it's it will take you on a real emotional, nostalgic roller coaster if you especially late 80s, early 90s, because that's what the game fundamentally is. It's a classic inspired shooter that takes you back to the original drawing board of action shooters. So there's no slide cancelling, no tactical sprint, no discombobulating wall running, all these features modern games have now.
Yeah.
It's jump, double jump, and fire. That's what it basically is. You've got your other aspects to it. Maybe gets a bit more complex with the sort of the defense building mechanics. But ultimately, it is a classic shooter. And inspirations, there's a lot of inspirations. And again, that's where it all rolls into that big ball I was talking about. But the main inspiration was probably all familiar with.
Yeah, Small Soldiers.
Yeah, Major Chip Hazard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me show you this. 2 secs. Where is it? And my Xbox shirt. Got this still. This is original 90s.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I love this. Yeah. I kept some of the stuff, you see. But yeah, Small Soldiers 1998. That was a huge inspiration, just from like the animations, the aesthetics, the whimsical story. I mean, if you were to, I think Small Soldiers, excuse me, perfectly encapsulates how it pulls out how playing with action figures as kids with our childhood imagination, how real it was. It replicates it almost. It brings it out. I'm not articulating it the best there, but you see what I'm trying to say.
I totally get that. Earlier today I was talking to my wife and telling her we have a developer on the podcast today, and I showed her a couple of trailers, and whilst doing so, I was looking at my kids. They are 6 and 8 years old now, and they're sitting there with a couple of action figures. They are like, well, it was Spider-Man and Captain America that they had in their hand, but it was like the little one was shooting with Spider-Man webs, and it was like, it's just like we played, and it was just there is something magical about these action figures as a kid, and even when you grow up, you still remember those days where you just got so excited about those toys.
You're right. It was magical. It was magical. Like, and I don't think we really like, because it's funny you say that, because I was thinking the other day, like, I mean, I used to do all sorts of my action figures. I just give me some cardboard. Oh, I'd make the best things. I really, these proper like environments I'd make, which was sellotape and cardboard, and it was the feeling it would give you, that imagination. And as we get older, it kind of goes. But I don't think, not to sound sort of cheesy, but I don't think, like, I can still remember my favorite action figures and toys. I think we never, we grow older, but we never grow. They never grow out of us, And I think I've had emails from mums and dads, and I've had some reviewers get in touch who haven't told me the score they've given Hypercharge, obviously, but they've got in touch because they've been that blown away with the game and the nostalgia factor. One lovely reviewer said that I'm not saying this word for word, but he'll never forget the moment that Hypercharge has given him with his child, because it has obviously split screen support. And it has this, and this is what I've been told before from another father. He said, like, it has this, he can relive his gaming childhood, these sort of parody toys in the game and stuff, and all the nostalgia, and he can relive his game childhood with his child. He can share this cross-generational nostalgia while, their children get to experience their own form of, because don't forget, children are still being brought up with Toy Story. There's other action figure animations out now, so it's this real special moment where you can have this sort of bonding playtime with your children playing Hypercharge, and that's what it really is all about. It's an experience, I would say, Hypercharge. Obviously, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think there's an audience for it there, and especially if you are missing those older days of FPSs,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you want to be reminded of another time, because the game was also heavily inspired, the movement you'll know straight away, by Halo as well, early Halo. So there's so much nostalgia. I can't remember what question you asked me. I'm sorry. did I
It's
answer
all
it?
good. We always do that on the podcast. We start off with one question and then we go off rails and end up somewhere entirely different.
I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
Our community is aware of that. And Pyromat in the chat sends us a super chat with a small soldier quote. Actually, he says, "Love the smell of polyethylene in the morning."
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's been been quite a few questions in the chat. Actually, one of them was around the customization. Actually, I'll put Action Man into Bobby instead of using Ken. Create a soldier would be awesome. There is kind of something like that with customization, where you can kind of put different parts on and things. So, can you describe the customization for people as well, and how much in depth? Because it is quite in depth, actually.
Yeah, there is. It's so just to be again fully transparent. You can customize every single body part. In the original version of Hypercharge, when it was a totally different game, we did allow for heavy customization. There was a technical reason for why we went away from that. I can't remember it now, so I'm not going to quote it. But there was a legit reason, 2 good reasons. I can't remember it now. But as for the customization in Hypercharge, there's hundreds of action figures and skins that you unlock in the game. So everything that's advertised or shown in the game is unlocked in the game. We do have 2 DLCs, which can be only purchased outside of the game, and it's so minuscule. It's not. It doesn't affect any of the gameplay. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for the customization, you get an action figure type. There's dozens of action figure types. They all have sort of their own little cool backstory, and they all come with their own heads. But you can also mix and match other action figure types with other heads. So, for example, you could have the Cyber Fury. You can have his own head, but maybe you want to have there's a teddy bear action figure. Maybe you want to put the teddy bear on the Cyber Fury. So you can mix and match like that, and you can have matching weapon skins, action figure packaging skins. You spawn in your action figure packaging. You can change the type of action figure packaging as well if you want a modern or classic type.
Yeah.
Your action figure also gets. Why I love this feature. It's like a name. What is it like? You unlock verbs and nouns for the title of your action figure. You unlock them in the game, and so your action figure in the game has it. You can have like funny ones like the heroic mission man, or my favorite one was somebody once had the accidental father, and that was actually a real story. It was so funny. So you can have really funny names, but there is so much action figures, and it's also worth noting that it's the quality of them.
Yeah.
It's the quality. These aren't just slapped together skins or models. They look like legit action figures. The amount of people who want us to 3D print and sell them is like merch. But there's so much. What else is there?
I know you've got a kind of a Street Fighter-esque reference character there as well, don't you? Is it Street?
Yeah. There's lots of
Dragon Ball-esque
parody things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great.
But there's
And that's the way. To be fair, it's the way to do it. And I've seen a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting into the customization and putting silly heads on silly bodies, and just having fun with it. And that's what it's all about. And we know, especially as kids as well, you could do that. You could just go, oh well, like the head's falling off this one, but this body's good, so we'll put it on here. So yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait. But you mentioned the level of detail, and obviously having seen the game in its entirety and the way it plays and the way it looks and things, a significant amount of detail as well, not just into the characters, but also the design of the sets that you've created as well, so the different maps, whether it be the toy room or the toy store, and you're going down the guitar and it's strumming the guitar as you're walking over it, or the box and the sound a cardboard box makes compared to the sound the floor makes, and the packaging when you bust out of it and things like that. Like everything is really well detailed and really well thought out. So Yeah, kudos for that as well, because that adds to the immersion of feeling like you're playing with toys.
And I think that's where we really hit a home run with Hypercharge, or we nailed, because when you're making an action figure game, when you're playing, like, you got to get it like 1-to-1 scale. That's the technical term. Like, in terms of how big the objects and the environment itself feels and accurately looks compared to the player's perspective. And everything is 1-to-1 in Hypercharge. You are a pint-sized action figure. A box is how a box should be. A coffee table is the size of what it should be. The room is the size of a real room, and that helps with the realism. And that's what makes it feel more believable. And also, like, little things people probably will discover in time. It's subtle, but it's there. Every action figure type has its own unique walking sounds. So it sounds different. That when you jump, every action figure has its unique, different jumping sounds. There's a voice command wheel. Every action figure has dozens of unique, its own personality. It's little things. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's a lot of effort, and a lot of indie games wouldn't do that. Go to that detail. Attachments. You find attachments that essentially upgrade your weapons. If you say collect a stock attachment, if you fire your weapon, you'll notice the sound is starting to change. It sounds a little bit beefier. Maybe you find a bipod, the weapon sound changes. It sounds even more beefier. And this could just be for the rifle, for example. Say if you find a shotgun and you find loads of attachments for the shotgun starts to sound more unique and like beefier, because the more attachments you find, the more perks you get, like damage, basic things. So it's always little things where it's just super little details. I hope people notice it. I hope people notice the play.
Yeah.
Not everyone will, but probably a lot of people will notice, because I think when you play such a game with such a unique setting, you're gonna appreciate these little details.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the split screen support. I actually have that also in my question list, because you don't see a lot of games these days with split screen, and it is the way how we used to play multiplayer back in the days, right? Growing up on the NES and Super Nintendo and so on, we played all these awesome games in split screen. And to this day, I do it regularly with some friends of mine. They come over, we have a pizza, a couple of beers, and play games in split screen. So I was super happy to see that Hypercharge is going to support that. Why did you put I mean, it's obviously a lot of effort to make that happen, knowing that probably not a lot of people are going to use it. What was the decision to put it in anyway?
Sorry, I just want coach's cat. Fuck you. So, a lot of us on the team are 90s babies, right? So, like you said, we grew up with split screen. And to get on, I'll get onto your point, but guys, how special is that for us that we grew up with that? I know it's always sort of new and it was the norm, but what a special thing it was. You can't explain, like, the memories I have with my brother, my sister, just sat on the couch playing on the same screen. It's something you can't really explain. It's something you can only feel. And there's games now I wish I could play with my wife on the Xbox on the TV downstairs. There is so many games. I would play more console games or games in general if they had split screen, so I can just be sat near that person. I don't want to buy another PC and set up another gaming room with them. It's not the same. Remember screen looking?
I mean, you'll remember this as well. It Takes Two was one of the best co-op experiences I've ever had.
Sorry, I've not played it yet, but I am going to play it. I apologize that offends anybody. I've not played it yet. I was looking earlier today at it. It looks, I need to play it. I think I'm waiting for the right moment, to be honest. You know, I really want to thoroughly enjoy it, but it looks amazing. Look, that proves it. Look, the times people have had with that. It's, sorry, I forgot your question again. You have to.
Oh, good. You basically answered it. I was asking, why did you try to decide to put split screen in there?
Yeah, so growing up in the 90s, we had it with Halo, the early Halo and whatnot, and
Yeah.
Hypercharge is fundamentally designed as a couch co-op experience.
Mm.
It's not. We're not trying to be a Fortnite, Call of Duty. Dutch will know this for all the comments. We're not, just make a battle royale, just, do this. So it's not. It was designed initially to be played split screen or offline. And that's who we wanted to cater to. We wanted this game with split screen. Like you said, it is a bit of a dying breed, unfortunately. And with Hypercharge, it's all that nostalgia. Split screen adds to the nostalgia. It's more accessible for people my age who grew up with it to experience that with their children, because it's all this. We want players and a certain generation to be able to kind of go back in time a little bit and just relive a certain moment in time with their children or partners, and that's why we wanted it. We love split screen. I think we're going to see more of it. I think we're going to see it supported more. I think it's like in decorating. There's wallpaper. It always comes around certain patterns of wallpaper. Like every so many years, it's weird. Certain wallpapers always come back in trend, and with split screen, I think it's slowly going to happen where we're going to see it come back into more games, because a lot of people say, we don't want it, but there's so many people who do want it. And you know what? There's people who, I really do believe, is people who want it, who say they don't want it, but they don't know that they do want it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they've never experienced it. They just think, oh, split screen. But yeah, that's why we added it, the nostalgia factor, and we grew up with it and we love it. And I mean, like I said, the emails, the messages we get speaks for itself. Being able to play with your kids in the same room, that's just, you can't put a price on that.
No,
you can put a price on buying a new bloody console or PC to play in the same game online, like an online membership.
yeah, exactly. Of course,
Absolutely.
you don't just have split screen. You have at launch full crossplay available as well, that is
true.
Really good. Yeah. One of the questions we've got is around the type of matchmaking for just general online play. Is it going to be skill based or input based, or?
It's not. So we're not doing any skill-based matchmaking. It's just not that type of game. For input, I'm not sure what that means, but it's
so either controller or keyboard and mouse. So
controller,
on PC
mouse, and keyboard.
Okay, so it won't have keyboard and mouse support at launch. We did try and get it ready, but because we have full split screen support and it supports up to 4 players, there's some big issues with us trying to properly implement it working with split screen. So we didn't want to delay any longer. So we're going to look into it and potentially add that. I reckon we can get it working with more time. But in terms of matchmaking, other than that, I just had a hot chili earlier. Excuse me.
All good.
In terms of it's essentially there is co-op, the wave-based story campaign, and there's PvP. In the PvP, there's 4 difficulty modes: casual, regular, expert, nightmare. You can choose which co-op campaign you want to join, expert, regular, and that's how the matchmaking works. PvP, I believe it's the same. You can choose expert, depending what the host has set the server to. So it's very, very basic.
So that's good. That's good. At least you'll know the good people will usually be in the expert category.
Exactly. It's not a PvP focused centric game at all. It's fun, but it's very basic. It's very much 90s inspired.
I'm telling you what, Joe, I'm looking forward to getting community nights on the go and shooting friends.
Oh yeah,
it is really fun. I had some friends the other day who've not played it before jump on, and we were doing Capture the Battery, and they're big COD players, and he said he couldn't believe, he said it wasn't really their type of game, but he said he couldn't believe the fun they were having. He said the laughs they were having, because it's just so laid back. It's not like, I mean, XDefiant looks really good. I want to try it, but I get sweaty watching it. I'm starting to sweat watching players get all these 360, 470 degrees trick twin shots, and I'm like, wow. I just want to jump and double jump and just play a little bit less fast pace. And that's what Hypercharge does.
Yeah.
Caters to a certain audience.
Yeah. I think
But
it's.
we know. But we know who. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say.
No,
I think it's. To be fair, we all say there's always a niche audience, but at the same time, it's ultimately fun factor. And as soon as somebody sees somebody else is having fun, and then
yeah,
the next person's having fun, and then that kicks on, and somebody watches another stream and they're playing it and they're having fun, and then they want to jump on it. It's a knock-on effect. So
Yeah.
ultimately, is when the fun's there, people notice, they take notice, and they want on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'm very much looking forward to have a game where I don't feel the necessity to practice a lot and just have fun with it. You see,
Good
when you
point.
think about a lot of the online multiplayer shooters, they are fun, but you kind of have to invest a lot of time in becoming good before it gets fun. Because if you're a noob, you're just not gonna enjoy Call of Duty multiplayer. Yeah, it's just what happens. And so I'm very much looking forward to have that more like casual, easy to get into experience.
Yeah. No, it's a good point that there is a lot of players I think who can get frustrated with that skill-based sort of threshold. There's a big talk I've seen as well.
Gears of
funny
War is
enough,
one of the
was-
big ones, actually. Gears of War. If you go online on Gears, you're getting decimated because people
Really?
that play
I've
Gears
not
of
played
War
that
online
online.
have only played Gears of War online. And they've been playing it since day dot. You try and jump in now and you're just getting your ass handed to you. So
I've seen a lot of trending stuff with skill-based matchmaking. I don't know if you've seen it, but
yeah,
it's trending loads. It's weird because it's been mentioned a lot in the Hypercharge chats, and there's a lot of people seeing who also there was some big CEO who was saying it was a former developer of hype developer of one of the Call of Duty said it ruined Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking in an
Yeah.
interview. I'm sure that's what I read somewhere. So it could be wrong. That don't quote me, but it's interesting. But yeah, I think like you said, if you kind of get forced into it if you're not that type of player, you might like the game, but maybe not so much the experience it's providing in that matchmaking.
Yeah, the problem with skill-based matchmaking per se is if, for instance, you might play it for several months and your skill level goes up, you jump back into it after a few months of not playing it, you're still in that skill level, but you're rusty as hell. So you go in and you're just getting shot at every left, right, and center, and you can't win, and then you downgrade and you start playing with people that are not anywhere near as good as you.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where the skill-based problem lies. It's great when you're playing it all of the time because then you're staying at a consistent level. But
Never thought of it like that. That's a good point.
But when you're not, and you're kind of on and off, or you jump on it and have a few rounds, and then you don't play it for a week, and then you jump back on it again, and you have to pick up at that same skill level that you left off at when everybody else
I
is
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's what where Hypercharge stands out is you cannot play it for a long time. You can get back into it and pretty much be just as good, you know. And most players, because there's a certain skill threshold, you know, you're not having to master slide cancelling and tactical slides. You see what I'm saying? You know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, you know, for those games, it's just you're not having to think of process all these hundreds of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So the game is going to come out on Xbox on May 31st. How was the development process for Xbox? How was the experience to now bring it and release it on there? I think a lot of people have seen your video when you talked about not going to Game Pass and all the how do you phrase that? Backlash, I wouldn't call it backlash, but like weird ass comments. How was that experience now to bring that game over from PC to Xbox?
Emotional. You probably saw the video around.
Yeah,
crying my eyes out. No, it's genuinely it's been a hell of a ride. I mean, we have nothing to hide. I've always been honest about the development of Hypercharge, and because I'm the face sort of our little indie company, I'd always get a lot of the brunt of the backlash, hell of a lot. And there was times where when I gave release dates, they were genuine from the whole team. It wasn't Joe, give me a release date to make them happy. It wasn't. We thought we could get out on X date. I mean, I'd say to the team under pressure, like, can you give me the worst case scenario? And they're like, yeah, Joe, okay, we can do it by this. But things happen, right?
Mm.
And this is what really does get under my skin, is you're on the computer screen now, and I'm looking at you both now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think we'll call them trolls because it's what they are.
Yeah.
It gets my lip going. It gets me annoyed. No, but they think you when they turn off the computer screen, they think you just sit there for eternity and you don't do anything else. You have no lives, no
Yeah.
partners, no family,
Yeah.
no problems. They think you don't even go to the toilet. You don't need a wee or a number
Yeah.
two. No, it's seriously.
It is, yeah.
They think this
You're
they
right.
think this stuff. But the reality is, I won't go into it. But like, I had a horrendous thing happen with my sister earlier this year. Really, really horrendous. My best friend on the team, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, but his mum nearly died. It was horrendous. You know, it really was. She's very lucky. A miracle, really.
Yeah.
My other friend on the team was in a relationship for years. Again, something horrible happened. Basically, we're human beings.
Yeah.
Things happen. And because, for Christ's sake, because we're 6 indie developers, each of us as a developer, our role is critical. It's if one of us goes down on the ship, we're all going to feel it. But that's how it is because we're a family business and we're all there for each other.
Yeah.
But what it means is delays affect us more so than if we had £1 billion and 5,000 developers working.
Yeah.
You know, we can't just go and hire somebody else. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I brought that up, but
no, it's right though. It's right. People never see the human behind it. They always just see the account and they go into personal attacks and they start thinking that you're just going to drop and do them at the drop of a hat, and any request needs to be fulfilled there and then. You're like, I know, like we are humans.
Yeah.
You know, this is like it is our job. It's a job we love doing, but ultimately we have lives, so we can't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, of course we do. We have feelings, and that's what I'm trying to get at is with the, you know, you say what's it been like bringing it to Xbox. I think going through all that, that's why it was so emotional, especially for me. It is for the rest of the team, but for me, because I've been, you know, speaking, engaging the most with the fans, the awesome fans in the community. Excuse me. And it's surreal because it's frustrating when people, you know, it's like with the Games Pass thing. I totally get people's frustration. And my tweet was never aimed at, obviously, I never said Games Pass Game Pass was bad. I've used it a lot in the past, you know. I think it's got its perks, it's got its corner, it's got its place. And when I posted them tweets, it was in 2022. I can't remember the last Game Pass one I did, maybe 2023. But at the time, it was when we first announced the game for Xbox, like properly, officially, to see the interest. And Games Pass seemed really cool in 2022 back then for us, for our understanding of it.
Yeah.
But a lot has changed since 2022 to now about the dynamics of Game Pass. More developers, don't forget, have come out about it in interviews. More public information has come out about Game Pass, where it maybe not as, can we say, lucrative for certain developers people may think. Maybe it's not the best for certain games. And the tweets, what I were doing, it wasn't, because a lot of people are now pulling up those tweets I've done and like a gotcha moment where it's like, look, this is why everybody's so angry at you. It's like, wait a minute, you know this, Dutch. 99.9% of the trolls who are saying Game Pass, and it's not just Hypercharge. I know Jez Corden seems to think it's one person. It's not just one person. I see it all the time, the time. People come into our TikTok live, and we average like 600-700 viewers. Sometimes we get to 1,000 views. I can guarantee not hardly any of those people have seen those tweets from years ago I posted. So it's not because of the tweets I posted. I feel like they're just trying to do a gotcha moment at me. That's what it feels like. And I can understand the frustration. Maybe in hindsight, I shouldn't have posted it. But at the time, my experience, we're trying to market the game. I was testing the waters. I've always said that. I was trying to get the eyes of Xbox.
Done the same thing, Lots of indies have done the same thing. A lot of that I know have said, what would you feel if this was on Game Pass, or is this a good Game Pass game? It's just to get the feelers, and in some respects, like you were doing then, it's more just to see, okay, so what's the feedback here, and if Xbox are looking, what are they seeing, like the feedback's there, and maybe we've got a chance of getting on there. For people that don't know with Game Pass, which is another thing that I think a lot of people just assume, is that anybody can get offered a Game Pass thing, but it's actually pretty rare for them to come out and offer anybody a Game Pass deal. It's not as just blasé
You
as
can't
they
just
say.
call up.
Yeah.
I can't just call up Phil and say, "Hey, up Phil, how you doing, kid?
Yeah.
Are we going on Game Pass?" I can't. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
As a small indie team, we know budget, and we still don't really have any budget.
Yeah.
You know, this was my budget for the month. Is shit. But you know, it's we can't. And we had talks with Xbox about Game Pass. Again, Xbox have been amazing. They honestly have been amazing. But nothing transpired after that. And maybe we could have pushed harder for it, but I think because it takes time to communicate, there's lots of people we communicate with, and it takes time, and we didn't want to delay the game any further because you know I always felt under pressure as well. I was so nervous because I didn't want to keep delaying it even further because it was getting to a point where it was like we have to just say this is enough. Excuse me, and nothing transpired. They didn't come back to us for whatever reason. Maybe it was our fault, but we still feel after what we've learned through those years, regardless of me posting those tweets, if people want to use that 100% against me, we still feel that Hypercharge, because it's a couch co-op, because it's designed for offline, it probably isn't the best fit for Games Pass. And again, I'm not saying that's the same. Some games are great for it. I'm not saying Game Pass is bad. I'm saying for us, and maybe we're wrong, but for what we feel, what's right for our game is that it probably isn't the best fit for Game Pass at launch. Maybe down the line, maybe it could work. But for launch, we feel like it's the type of game where you buy it and you get to keep it forever. You know? And again, it's... I feel like I always have to justify myself to certain people where it's like, I made those tweets, but I mean, have I done something so wrong making tweets, testing the waters? It was never to mislead. I thought we could have I thought the idea was maybe because it was gaining traction, the Xbox players love Hypercharge. They're our biggest, really are big fans of it. And the tweets were just doing well. And I thought maybe we could go on Game Pass. You know, but the team, as we learned more, started to be like, I don't know. You know, it wasn't to trick people or anybody like that. It's just, I don't really know.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's like, obviously, Game Pass is a good thing for a lot of games, but it isn't for every game. And we've had other developers on the show, and we talked to other developers as well, and they all said the one thing, and it is so logical. Game Pass is a very complex thing because it's so multifaceted. You have, you obviously have basically free advertisement through it if more people play the game, but then financials come in, and then other things come in. You have to see what else is going to release, and you might still go under in Game Pass, and it is a risky thing. It is a complex thing to evaluate which game is the best fit for that. And I always say, as much as I enjoy Game Pass, the one thing that Game Pass does for me, I just saved $50 on Hellblade 2 that I can now spend on games like Hypercharge.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of Game Pass. It is a mixture. And not every game has to be in there in order to be successful. And I feel like nobody should judge on the fact whether the game comes to Game Pass or not, other than the developers themselves. Because at the end, you guys put in all the work, and you have to make the decision what is right for your game. And if it's not Game Pass, I feel like that is something everyone should respect, because you're not the only ones that make these decisions, you know?
And maybe we're wrong, you know. We're not saying we're 100% right, everyone's wrong. It's just it's our decision. And
that's the thing.
I think what's frustrating as well, what is frustrating is, like, you have a what I would call a healthy logic of it. And I've seen a few comments as well where it's like, I love Game Pass. It allows me to spend money on other games that aren't on it, that I like, support. It's when I get these comments, trolls come in, and can you imagine where you put your heart and soul into something? Essentially, you like making a business, and somebody who comes around and says, oh, you're not giving it. You imagine you make a bakery, right? spent ages building it up, and somebody comes in and says, "Oh, you're not giving away free samples. Oh, there's no customers. It's dead on arrival." And loads of people keep coming in and saying it because you're doing something a bit different to what they expect. It's like it was aimed at the statement I made was aimed at the trolls as well, saying, dead on arrival, not on Games Pass. Game Pass, we ain't playing. It's this like. It does hurt that. It's like when it's all, and it is all the bloody time. Honestly, it's so many people. So it's across all socials. There is a certain. I do feel there's a certain stigma or mindset where why go to somebody and say this game is dead without Game Pass, or we ain't buying. Like what? Like, how unsupportive is that?
Yeah, Joe. I tend to find this it's mainly an issue with indie games as well, because people are just reluctant to buy indie games. There's a big subset of us that love indie games when we buy them and we play them all the time, like we do, and obviously we support them as much as we possibly can. But a lot of people are just so addicted to this AAA high quality budget things that they're just that's all their money goes to, and they refuse to take a chance on a nice indie studio putting out a whole unique experience
for actually a fair asking price. You're not charging $70 full price for a game.
And then 9 times out of 10 as well with indies is what you see is what you get. The game is at 9 times out of 10 complete at launch. You don't have to wait for it to be patched. You don't have to wait for it to have additional content. You don't have to wait for DLCs to come. You don't this is the game in its entirety. Enjoy it.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
but it is challenging to deal with all these comments. I mean, we also get these trolls online, maybe not to the same degree because we don't do this full time, we only spend like a couple of hours every week for content creation and have our actual jobs on the side. But if you like you said, you guys are so invested, you poured so much passion and enthusiasm into that, it hurts differently. And that's what a lot of these trolls, like you said earlier, forget. Everyone, whether it's a content creator or in your case a developer, is a real human being. You have real lives, you have real problems, just like everyone in the community. Let me briefly read a super chat from Pyromet that came in, who touches exactly on that. He says, trolls are narcissists online 24 hours a day. They expect everyone to see online is exactly the same as them, hence their behaviors. That's obviously sometimes true. Some people just live as trolls in the internet and don't realize that some people actually have lives, and have emotions and feelings. And
exactly. And it's not that weak. I mean, if you go look at the Steam reviews, I mean, I reply to a lot. It's not that I or we can't take criticism. We can. This isn't a perfect game by any means. It is going to have bugs on launch. We can't have a perfect game. But there's criticism, and then there's constructive criticism. And it's just, and then when people say it's the internet, you're too sensitive, it's like, but we're not. The reason I like to talk about some of this stuff because not enough people are open enough about it, and it's just there's certain language people use or trolls use. It's like if you don't have 50,000 concurrent players, your game's dead. I'm sick of seeing your game's dead. I'm sick of people pulling up the Steam charts, coming into the chat saying, you've got 26 people, the game's dead. It's not a success. It's like, what? Why are you coming in and saying that? There's nothing to hide. Most of our player base is offline. We have the real data on that. Steam charts doesn't show that. Steam charts doesn't even show private Steam profiles. And what do they mean by, success? Like, success is subjective. We're able to do this for a living now, We're not even on Xbox yet, but we're still able to do it on a living, for a living. And it's a mindset of this weird thing that's happening where literally, if you don't have thousands and thousands of concurrent users every day, your game's dead. But what if you're an offline game? The whole of Hypercharge can be played offline. Not everybody likes to play online. It's why we implemented offline. Everything can be unlocked offline. So it does get frustrating when you hear it all the time, especially when we know, like, We're not chasing player numbers.
Yeah.
If we were chasing player numbers, guys, right, we would have launched when Hypercharge, you remember, went mega viral in 2022 when we first announced it. We could have ported it over. I say port in 3 months. None of the features that all the Xbox players were requesting would have been added in, which are now. It wouldn't have been as polished. You wouldn't have had all the polishing and the features and everything we put in over those 2 years. That wouldn't have been in. You know what? Let's just shove it on Game Pass. We'll do a Steam free to play weekend, which people think that's a really good thing. It's free to play weekends. You have to be careful. It can really hurt sales of smaller indies depending on the type of game.
Yeah.
Or you know what? We'll do 75% off. Let's do it, lads. Let's go 80% off on Steam. Let's just do it for 2 weeks. You know, get those player numbers. If we were trying to chase player numbers, we'd do all this stuff that other indies do, but we're not. This is the type of game that caters to primarily split screen, offline, local, and it's a type of game where if you've got friends, bring your friends. If you don't have friends who play it, thanks for thinking about it. Maybe in the future, it'll, I don't know, get a few more players. But it's not what we're doing. We're never going to compete with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
We don't need. We're not even trying to. We're never going to compete with Fortnite. Well, it's like XDefiant. People are like, XDefiant's come out. Why did you release then? Do you think we did it on purpose?
Yeah.
You think we did it on? But also, like, it's we're a completely different game, and people don't realize in terms of marketing, a lot of smaller developers don't release when bigger games release. You shouldn't always be afraid to release when bigger games launch. It doesn't mean you're just going to get brushed under the rug. It means there's actually could be more exposure for your game because there's less smaller games you're competing with who are not your competition, but you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just, it gets frustrating when I hear it all the time. Dead game, dead on arrival. Somebody on the live stream Dutch yesterday saying it was the logic. I couldn't. This was silly logic ever saying that the game's not been commercially successful. And then I said to him, then how are we launching it on Xbox? How have we spent time and money bringing it to Xbox over the last 2 years if we've not been commercially successful? Just think about the logic. This is brain rot they have. I'm sorry, you're going to have to stop me. I'm going on one.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
It gets under my skin. It really does. Because I'm not like that as a person. I wish if you're a good person, I wish you success. I'd never go to somebody who makes a game and just go dead on arrival. Personally, I still find it very hard to, compute, or I can't accept how somebody can be like that in a way. You know, I find it very hard how people can be so cruel when, I don't know, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I've got too much empathy. I don't know what it is, but it's so frustrating. It really is.
I can totally understand that because, again, you poured so much enthusiasm and passion into this. And then just, not every game is for every gamer. We just talked about this earlier in the show. I'm not a big sports game fan. I'm just not able to enjoy FIFA. Does that make a bad game? It's
I know what you mean,
obviously millions of people are enjoying it. Doesn't make it a bad game. So, and even if I would feel like Hypercharge is for me, there's no need to like, go online and trying to put such a negative feeling on the developer. There's no reason to. It's just, it might not be my type of game.
No, exactly. We've had a lot. I mean, I'm looking at Steam now. We have recently, overwhelmingly, I've got to throw it out there, positive reviews. We have 91% very positive, over 3,000, but we have negative reviews. And there's a lot of helpful negative reviews where people have taken the time to address what they don't like about it and how we can improve it. And we've taken a lot of their feedback and put it into the game. That's great. That's great. That's how you help a game develop.
100%.
It's not that you can't criticize things, but it has to be constructive. Parasite82 in the chat sends in a £10 super chat and says, I went to the IVF clinic today with my wife for the final procedure. So fuck the trolls, Joe, and just focus on the baby and your wife. That's
Aw.
what's important, dude.
Who's that? We got to send him. We got to send him an Xbox code. We got to do it.
Parasite.
Parasite,
Reach out
thank
to
you.
me or Joe directly. We will make
We'll
it
get you an
work.
Xbox code. I hope treatment and everything's going all right with you as well. I hope everything's going the best it can.
Yeah.
And thank you for the kind
Indeed.
words. That really means a lot. We'll get you.
Yeah.
We'll get you a key.
Sweet. That's awesome. That's awesome. I've also seen the I want to the post you put up where you wanted to give away a couple of codes to people that are currently going through a rough patch, and it just shows you the passion. You want to just bring joy to the people,
Yeah.
and that's what's
Yeah.
appreciated. Yeah, and that's
Mm.
what's matters. And we shouldn't be focusing on these negative trolls too much.
Yeah.
That's-
No, that is true.
But let's talk about the game again.
Yes. I want to ask actually, Joe. I want to ask actually because obviously we've got this is the kind of the run time that we've got now is you're releasing on Xbox next week.
Yeah.
Huge, massive thing. There's a big cry for coming to PlayStation. We know there's a plan potentially to get that by the end of the year, beginning of next, hopefully, if everything goes well, so that PlayStation players can jump on as well. But what's the team's thoughts on what you're potentially thinking of bringing to the game over that period as well? Any thoughts of what else can we add to this that might be cool? What plans have you got in that respect or ideas?
Yeah. So when we launch an Xbox, we'll be doing bug fixes, looking out, making sure there's nothing major, fixing it straight away, and then I imagine we'll want a bit of a rest.
Yes.
We're going to need
Yeah.
one. But what we've been talking about potentially bringing is an endless game mode. So it wouldn't be defending like the Hypercharge, which is part of the story campaign, the main wave-based mode. You'd be fighting just waves and waves of infinite, like your classic endless sort of survival mode type things.
Yeah.
It'd be something like that. And then we have like ideas for other server, because you can in the PvP modes, for example, there's like server rules. So we may add like, classic Instagib, the floor is lava,
Yeah.
things like that.
That's good.
And maybe we'll add another PvP mode. We're going to listen to feedback, see what the response is. Who knows? Maybe the game completely just is absolutely awful and not so likes it. Then it'd be pointless continuing with it. But that would doubt that'd be the case. But yeah, we're gonna have a break, get together, check the feedback, see what the players would like, see if it's technically feasible. Because one thing we also do want to do, we are technically limited. I won't go really into that, but we are technically limited with how much we can change and do with Hypercharge because of the stage of development it is, and because of what we were left with the early access version of the game. Basically, there's a big story to do with that. But so basically, what I'm saying is, the way the game has been designed from years ago, it's kind of like onion layers and onion layers. If there was only so much we can strip it down without it affecting so many other mechanics.
Yeah.
Deck, the programmer, can explain it much better than I can. But so we can add all these awesome features like we would like to. So the other option, which we eventually will do, is either a prequel or a sequel to Hypercharge.
That was another question in the chat, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Down the line, will you do a sequel or a prequel? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. We're going to have to, because again, we won't be technically limited.
Yeah.
With the game design, we'll be able to really, and everything we've learned. I mean, if there's any developers in the chat, they'll know we did all this in house. We brought, bringing Hypercharge onto the Switch was unheard of, really. The type of game, with the hardware as well. We've done it all ourselves. We've not just paid a company to do it.
Yeah.
We wanted to do it ourselves. So it's we want to do another game. It might not be called Hypercharge. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the name. It's something you learn. I've always said to the team, if we make another game, the game has to describe the action figures.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Easier off the tongue as well.
Yeah, basically, it's something we learn. But it will definitely be a prequel or sequel because we've got the story. The story is so 90s and whimsical and classic good versus evil. We've got the stories and the characters there now. We can really lead it on somewhere else. So it's really exciting.
Would you do the story mode differently if you can with the technical advancements that we'll have now? Would you do the story a little bit differently and maybe aside because you've got a comic book strip and then you've got these hypercore things, and it's a great way of doing it. The inspiration where the game comes from, Small Soldiers, and that story. Would you like to do a story that is more kind of story-based story with action figures?
It depends what type of gameplay loop would go around.
Yeah.
We may not even go massively story with it.
Yeah.
We may go more. I don't know. I don't want to give away any hints of what genres we have in store,
Yes.
but yes and no. It depends. We got to fully decide on the genre we want to do.
Yeah.
If it's a hybrid genre or just a specific genre, and then we'll work out how deep we want to go into the story. Maybe we just make it more lore based, carrying on from Hypercharge. But yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. We're a bit far away from that, but it's definitely on. You know, it's definitely somewhere in our next chapter, so to speak.
I've got another one in the comment there that's saying we are going to Gorgon eventually.
Oh.
Everyone loves that.
Yeah.
How did you land? How did the team land on the name then, Hypercharged Unbox?
So originally, I mean, there's so many what is it? There's Hyperscape, Hyper Brawl, Hypers. There's so many hypers that have come out now. It was, I think, because I think the game had more of an emphasis on the batteries, and it was originally the original very early idea was only going to be PvP focused.
Yeah.
And we wanted some sort of fast, like Hypercharge name to do with the batteries. It was something to do with that, but I mean, looking back in hindsight, yeah, we all can agree it wasn't probably the as a marketer, I know it as well. It wasn't the best sort of name to explain what the game is. You know,
Yeah.
I always say with game names, especially when you're smaller indies, when you can't have millions of pounds of budgets and billboards on every bus stop and stuff, you know, have a name that describes the game, the genre if you can. It helps so much, really does.
Nice. Awesome.
So you mentioned earlier, you guys are 6 as a whole in the team. How did you split up tasks? Does everyone do certain things, or how does the team work together on the game?
So we have like, what do you call it? Like an intranet type thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, like similar to Trello, we'll use something like that, where we all have like our own tasks, and we delegate a lot to ourselves, but we'll have Ulrich who's in sort of charge of production. We're a family business, and we're not like have somebody standing over saying, you've got to get this done, this done. There's a lot of mutual trust built over years. But we'll have a certain plan. We have weekly meetings to go through what we've done, and fun meetings, you know, what we plan on doing. And we have, like, say, a roadmap production of what we need to get done. But it's very flexible, but we have to stick to a certain thing because it still is a business we're running. And yeah, we delegate tasks for, you know, the programmer, for the marketing, for the sound design, for the gameplay. And we all have, like, I'm not just marketing, I'm like, have a lot to do with the game design, like creative gameplay, which is like figuring out what certain mechanics could potentially work. Would it be fun? Would it appeal to our audience? And a lot of QA testing. And Ulrich, for example, he's actual trade. He's a sound engineer, basically. But he's got he went out and got an MBA in business so he could help us as a company. And he does it, and he's learned so much. Does a lot of gameplay for Hypercharge. Deck, Nick, Josh, they you know, he does modeling, Josh, but he does loads of animations for the game. So see what's amazing with our team. We're really small, but we can do a lot. We're really good at doing other things.
Yeah.
And yeah, just delegating things, have a proper plan. That's how we do it, really. It's really amazing, to be honest, because I can wake up and I don't have to clock on at a set time unless we've planned it. You know, I could go to the cafe Monday morning and I'm not going to have a boss saying, why are you on this job? You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Because we've got that trust there. You know, we don't take the piss, or we get the stuff we need to get done.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, there's you know it is the one thing I love about this chat in the community we've got here is everyone. There's not been one negative comment. Everything's been super supportive, but they're all so full of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, they're all like, you could do this, and this would be awesome, and this would be awesome.
I get it.
But one of
Yeah.
them, and I think this could sound cool to you as well. He said, would they add horror mode for Hypercharge? Because I feel like a horror toy game would go crazy, even if it's a timed event.
We do have an infection game mode, which, if anyone was familiar with Time Split's virus and probably Halo Infection,
Yeah.
it's a mix of them, and it's pretty scary, to be honest. So it's all the maps are dark, and it's the so one person starts off as the green infected,
Yes.
and the last remaining survivor wins. So he's probably not meant that type of horror, but I mean it's a little bit. But a horror thing, it does sound cool. There's honestly people have so many good ideas where I'm like, I wish we could add it. I wish we could, you know.
Yeah, and another one here as well. People would love a physical edition of it, but of course with smaller companies, smaller development studios, that's quite an outlay monetarily to kind of get that done and get people on board in order to get physical copies and things out. But can we get a collector's edition for Hypercharge with a physical copy and an actual figure too, please?
No, no, it is something we are looking into, a physical collector's edition.
Nice.
It is something we're looking into. We'd love to do like a proper box. A Sergeant Max Hammer, he's the main protagonist, the good guy, and like a keychain and a physical edition, disc version. We'd love to do something like that. We need to see if it's feasible, how we can get it done. But it's definitely something we would be looking into to see if possible, for sure. Because I mean, I'd buy one myself. I'd buy 10 of them. I love it.
Well, one very enthusiastic chap in the chat said I would spend 80 to 100 on that.
We're gonna get it made then.
No, it's great. I'm loving seeing the excitement in chat on both chats. To be fair, it's really great to see that.
Yeah.
And of course, yourself, Joe, it's obviously Hypercharge coming out, but your team and the guys you work with are super busy, and it's not just this game you're working on. You have another horror game.
Yeah, funny. What a difference.
Yeah.
What a difference.
Paranormal Tales, and that one's really cool. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing that
that's
as
gonna be
well,
cool.
and how that pans out. But that's a really cool idea as well, especially with the sound and the way you've worked that. Has it been how has it been juggling kind of doing Hypercharged and PT, or don't play PT?
Yeah. But we are also, don't forget, the game Don't Scream is our game as well, if anyone's heard of that.
Yes.
Paranormal Tales was, because the hype punched so much, there was quite a bit of pressure on us. And we've done a lot of iterations with the levels and seeing what we want to do, but we've been doing stuff on the background with PT, but what we're doing now is Don't Scream has been a really good sort of how can I say it, like a good way, like a test bed almost for us. It sounds bad word, test bed.
I was just about to say that exact phrase, test bed.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a bit.
see
It
what
is a bit
works.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the tech, because it's Unreal Engine 5 for Paranormal Tales, and it's not that we're using Don't Scream, and we put a lot of updates into it. We're building that up into more of a good quality game, trying to turn that around. And then everything we've learned with the tech, we're going to be able to utilize it even better for Paranormal Tales. So utilizing it's a lot of time management, trying not to feature creep and sticking to a production schedule.
Yeah.
But we're able to manage it because we don't overexhaust ourselves, and because we're experienced enough now, we learn to know how not to feature creep, because it's a big thing when you're new developers feature creep, and it really is. You've got to go through it to learn what it's like and how to avoid it eventually, the best you can. So yeah, just having a good system, but we're getting there with it. But the priority at the moment it's obviously Hypercharge, and then sort of Don't Scream, but Hypercharge we want to try and get it on PlayStation 4 and 5 by the end of this year.
Nice, awesome stuff. Yeah, it's the first time this year actually. I think I've had a developer on where we've had multiple games that are your games. We had on the
Yeah.
indie show, we had Hypercharged, and we also had PT as well on there as well. So it was good to see the different reactions to those. But yeah, both super exciting to come across, and I'm super looking forward to it. For people who don't know, for both chats, we're doing a giveaway of a few copies of Hypercharged next week as well, just in time for release. So everybody will be able to play it on release day, and you'll get it right on time. So that'll be cool. I can't wait for people to play it. Like I say, my community, I'm gonna get a few copies to my community as well, so we can get good community nights going. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Gonna be a blast.
Capture the battery is going to be fun. I don't think I mentioned it, but in Capture the Battery, you can. So obviously, it's like obviously inspired by Capture the Flag, but the unique thing about Capture the Battery is to score points, you have to place batteries into these power nodes, place them in it.
Yeah.
But you can also throw the batteries. But you can throw the batteries to your friends, and your friends can catch the batteries. So it's so fun. So you're about to score a point, but someone's suddenly your health's gone really low, and you're like, "Oh, Dutch, no, take the battery," and you lob the battery at the last second. That's what it's like. It's really fun.
Those moments on couch co-op, it's like the game stream.
We'll see what happens. So many people say it was made for Xbox, this game, and like it's going to do so well. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe it pops off massively. Maybe it does. Maybe it's. I still believe word of mouth's the biggest. That's the best marketing, word of mouth. Maybe the game was made for Xbox. Maybe it was made for consoles. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out next week, won't we? Bloody hell.
Yeah.
We'll find out next week.
You know what it is? I think the thing about Xbox, and I think this has been the case since Xbox's inception, though, is Xbox has always been known as a multiplayer-centric console.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be couch co-op or online, it's always been that way. And as much as it obviously drives us mad, because when we talk about narrative games and things all the time, PlayStation's that focus. We get a Hellblade, which is great, but ultimately a lot of Xbox's titles that are successful are multiplayer, whether that be Sea of Thieves or Forza or or Gears or Halo. They're the multiplayer target, and that's really what the console's been synonymous for. So having another awesome indie multiplayer game that's couch co-op and online co-op and online versus is going to be absolutely awesome, and especially the nostalgic feel. Like I say, I'm a huge I keep saying toy soldiers, small soldiers. What we grew up with, like I'll never forget that film, and it's always great to watch. I can go back and watch it now.
Yeah.
Doesn't get old. It's nostalgia.
Yeah.
I just hope. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just hope some people aren't expecting COD. That's my biggest fear. I hope they don't go in. Where's the aim down sights?
Yeah.
Why is my weapon zooming in when I'm right clicking?
Yeah.
Why is it not slide cancelling? I keep saying that. But I mean, you can't. I mean, am I right in saying that? Thinking that you can't really couch. You're less inclined to try split screen on a PC. I think as a parent, it's much easier in the living room on a console,
absolutely,
isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a faff on trying to do it on PC.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I think I've never played a game on PC in space.
Really? That's interesting. You see, so
at least I can't remember from the top of my head.
I think it was the only time I think I might have done was I'm talking years and years ago when I was
I'm thinking
when consoles were just starting
maybe
to get into the
Diablo 3 when it launched. I'm not sure, which isn't particularly split screen, but you could at least play together. Maybe I've done that. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's like split screen is made for the couch,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
A couple of little things here as well, actually. In terms of content in the game as well. First of all, how many modes are in the game currently, and how many maps?
Okay, so there are. I'm not gonna say the exact number. I'm gonna try and remember every map. There is a bedroom.
Yeah.
There is a toy store.
Yeah.
There's I say toy store. There's a toy aisle. There's a really big toy aisle. There's the hallway of a toy aisle. There's another hallway of a toy aisle. toy aisle. There's a garden. There's an attic. There's a bedroom. There's a shed. Did I say bathroom?
Yeah.
There's a massive playground theme park thing. There is what else is a? There's another outside little garden map. There's a kitchen. There's an air hockey table you can. My wife just said air hockey. There's an air hockey table you can stand on. There's 14 levels, stages basically,
Nice.
and game modes. There's a few game modes. So the main game mode is the wave-based story campaign, and that isn't just fighting waves of toys, and that's it. There's lots of it has a big focus on platforming as well and secret finding. So and there's dozens of optional objectives and Easter eggs to find and stuff. So there's a big focus on exploration. There's PvP modes. They're not the main game modes, but they are fun, easy to jump in and out of. There's deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the battery, King of the Hill, and infection. We also have a free roam mode, which just takes away the shooting, and you can do all the optional objectives. You can get a lot of the unlocks by you just literally explore the environments in your own time, and it's really relaxing.
And you've got
We
an
also
arcade
have
cabinet in there as well, don't you?
the apartment level. That's another one with the arcade. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we have. I see another level. We have a big apartment, which is one of my favorite maps. Yeah, there's a playable arcade, which is cool. The action figure, you can see it moving the joystick. It's awesome. We also have a local party mode, so it can't be played online, and it's played from a bird's eye, top down point of view.
Oh,
And
Okay.
one of the modes is spinners versus spinners. Obviously not Beyblades. And you're battling each other on this air hockey table, and you have to knock each other off, but you can jump over each other. It's pretty fun. I need to do a video on it. And there's also another one where you're both tanks trying to blow each other up. Who scores the most points? Super simple, but really fun. And we also, as well, how did I forget to mention this? We also have classic cheat codes that you unlock in the game.
Oh.
I'm talking big head mode. You remember that?
Yes.
I'm talking. There's even a mode where you can have classic shooter mode. Your guns are just like old Doom, classic Doom, in the middle. We even have one that gives you completely changes the screen to have an old PX something screen, so everything looks proper old school.
Old school.
There's loads of other cheats as well, like old school funny ones. Yeah, there's so much to the game. There's all the unlocks of the action figures, and there's so much to do. There really is. There's so much. It's not the type of game where obviously it's not a live service game. We're not doing battle passes, this and that. But what you buy, you get access to everything that's shown in the game.
Yeah.
And we've got players. I mean, if you go and check, for example, the recent playtime on Steam, we have people with 50 hours, 38 hours, 18 hours, 41 hours. Then you'll get people 62 hours, 28 hours, 26 hours. For us, for a small game, that's amazing. I've got people who've added me. We've got hundreds of hours. Hypercharge is the type of game where you get out what you put in.
Yeah.
If you just don't care about the optional objectives, if you don't care about the hidden secrets, if you don't care about reading the funny packaging, all the boxes, or if you don't care about there's also 4 difficulty modes. I think I already said it. Casual, regular, expert, hard. There's different medals you unlock. If you just don't care about all that, you probably get the game done in 8, 9, 10 hours on the easiest difficulty and just not doing the rest of the game. That's not a bad experience for a story campaign per se. But if you want to really play it, you'll get a lot of hours, a lot of fun. And yeah, I know that I'm going a bit off topic with the game.
No, it's right on.
So much
That's fine.
That's cool.
All to do with it, yeah.
All right. Pyromed sends in a super chat and says, I've been interested in Hypercharge since the Xbox inquiry in 2022. So a lot of people are looking forward to this
wow.
for a while now, to have it actually on console. I've also been holding off. I've been thinking about getting on Steam, but then when I heard, okay, it's coming to Xbox, I was just about to wait. Because I can't wait to play, especially.
Are you going to play on? Are you going to play on a HDR TV?
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, like I'm jet hand on my heart, right? I'm not being biased here. When the guys first tested it on a HDR TV 4K, they said to me, and I didn't really get what they meant. They're like, it looks like so good, like it looks so vibrant, and it looks like this is how it should be played, how it should look.
Yeah.
And a few weeks ago, whenever it was, and I put it on my TV, I recently got a new TV as well. It looks better graphics than obviously we've had to optimize it with Series X and on PC. I mean, it looks just the same as PC. It looks better than PC. I can't explain. Feel free to say, Joe, you're wrong.
With HDR. I've said it. Dutch knows this. HDR is for me the bigger game changer than the pure resolution.
Yes,
the resolution is crispy and cool and all good stuff, but with HDR, you get so much more vibrant color, bigger color space, better contrasts. It is, in terms of visuals, better visuals, such a bigger leap than the 4K resolution jump. Yeah.
But because we do have that inspiration from the Toy Story Pixar aesthetics, the HDR brings that out, if you get what I mean. It pops. And you literally, I hope it does it to you. I hope you go in, especially on the first level in the bedroom, when you break out that toy packaging and you look around, you'll be like, wow. Some people think it's Unreal Engine 5 with RTX. I'm like, no, it's Unreal Engine 4. It's amazing.
Yeah, can't wait. Super much looking forward to it. So only 8 more days. We have to wait. At least on Xbox. Of course, it's already available on Steam and Nintendo.
Don't buy it on Nintendo though, just yet, because it's not fully up to date. If you want to support us, thank you. It helps. It's still a very good experience, but we're having to update it after all the consoles and stuff because we have to do it in a certain way, because of how it works best for us. So I just like to be honest to people, in case anyone in the chat here was going to buy it on Switch. Please wait until we announce the update. All the consoles will have the same updates, all cross-platform support, but we just need a bit more time to update on Switch. Yeah. So I just want to, put that out there. Sorry for interrupting.
No, totally fine. And thanks for the heads up for the community. We love it when developers are transparent there. Absolutely. So it's kind of getting late over here in Germany. Yeah. So we are a little bit more than 3 hours into the podcast. Joe, I don't know if you have a couple of more minutes. Usually at the end of the show, we read out a couple of community questions that people wrote in the days before the podcast, because we have a lot of listeners also from Spotify and Apple Podcasts that are not joining live, and we still want to participate them in the show. So if you would be up for it, we can answer a couple of these questions together.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know. Awesome.
Yep, no worries.
Dutch, we got a couple of interesting ones. Toothpaste writes in and asks, why is gaming discourse always like this? It's either fraud, toxic, adversarial, or tribalistic. Perhaps the tribalism is manufactured by corporations to boost sales and engagements, and all of the other toxic discourse falls from that. Thoughts on that? So,
yeah,
it's interesting to see. We've just seen it online.
It started that way. It certainly started that way. If you ever think back to the old Nintendo Sega and the tribalism that Nintendo and Sega had against each other,
that's true.
And then Sony floating with Sega, and then Sega went out of the console business, and then of course you had the original Sony versus Xbox at the time as well, and the tribalism that they had against each other, and even going back to the Xbox One generation with mocking each other's platforms, and this is how you share games and things like that. It's always been there, like from the top branches that they've done that, and it's only recently where both companies have kind of subsided from that, but a lot of that still lingers from the past, this tribalism. And
I mean, see, the tribalism, you have that also like in sports and other entertainment formats, you know. I think I don't think honestly that companies, bigger publishers or whatever, are intentionally placing that there. I don't think that the toxic discourse on social media and so on is actually helping anyone of the companies. There's a lot more money to be made if there's enthusiasm out there instead of tribalism. But I feel like the growth of social media has made it so easy for people. They can hide behind the screens. You know, we argued in the school 30 years ago in the schoolyard about whether Nintendo or Sega is better. Yeah, but we always had to do it face to face, and now you have that anonymity of the internet. You know, you can hide behind a mouse and a keyboard and give yourself a funny name on Twitter or wherever, and just go on with it.
Yeah, and I think it's far more vitriol now as well. It's like in the playground and things, you'd argue about consoles and which ones were best and things like that, but it was never aggressive or like or vile. But now online and with this anonymity, a lot of it's just very aggressive and name calling and like threatening and abusive, and like it's because of anonymity. I think that's part of the issue these days. It's not just the vitriol that lasted back then, but it was a different kind of discourse back then. Yes, there was toxicity and things like that, but I think modern toxicity is all based on the fact that people are just anonymous and they can hide behind a persona.
Joe, what do you think?
I think it's the biggest thing. It's very easy to do. It's so much. The internet's so accessible to many people now, and it doesn't take much intelligence for people to say nasty things, does it? Let's be honest. And this sort of discourse that we're talking about, it's not helpful. It doesn't. It doesn't evolve the industry as a whole, does it? It just makes it a sadder place when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah,
that's true. We have another question from Habibullah Khan. He writes in and asks about IGN buying Rock Paper Shotgun and Eurogamer and GamesIndustry.biz, etc. He asks the question: can you trust gaming media to be customer first now?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
Well, we discussed this earlier in the show. I think it's already when you're talking about consolidation and things, it always brings that moment of, okay, so how is this going to benefit the consumer? And I don't think consolidation of media outlets is going to benefit anybody. Ultimately, I don't see how it could, because everyone's under one roof, everyone's working for the same company. What were individual independent outlets now owned by one mega outlet, you can't really have that kind of transparency that you once did before, where you might have difference of opinions.
Yeah. It's a shame in a sense, because it's like losing that what's the word I'm looking for? The personality of certain outlets that people would be fans of or trust.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be it's just gone now. I'm not saying maybe they can build certain trust up, but it's going to be difficult, I think. Yeah, I was really shocked when I heard that news. Just like, wow, I believe it.
Yeah. I think what is important, especially in this day and age where everyone has access to the internet and news spread so quickly, to have like real independent media, and it not just goes for gaming. But since we are a gaming podcast, obviously, I think independent reporting is important, and we've seen over the last couple of years less and less investigative journalism in games media. It's more like news drops and you just post it, best with a clickbait headline, and that's it. But rarely do you see like true investigative journalism, and seeing particularly that mother company now, I'm not sure, because some of the outlets that they bought, like gamesindustry.biz or so, they have done that in the past, and I hope that they will be able to continue that under the roof of an IGN.
A quick question for Joe, actually, from the chat, just back on Hypercharge topic briefly.
Sure.
Goes to performance. How does this run on Series X? Is it 60 or up to 120?
It's 60 plus. I don't know the exact, but across all platforms, so Xbox One, Xbox Series SX, we're always trying to achieve a higher or maintain 60 FPS.
Yeah.
For the Series X, it could be 100 FPS it's on, but that's at 4K.
Yeah.
But we're always above 60 FPS where possible.
Yeah.
Through like dynamic res scaling on the lower ones like the Xbox One, Xbox Series S. But we're always trying to.
So it's an uncapped frame rate, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Nice.
As far as what I understand it,
Nice.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, but
Very
it runs super smooth on the Series X. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, uncapped frame rates, especially above 60, come in very handy with the VRR screens, and it barely does. It really doesn't matter anymore whether you have 100 or 120 on a
that's true.
VRR screen. Yeah, it's cool. We also got a question from. It's more like a statement or an info from Parasite, who sends in a £5 super chat and says, "I've just purchased the Hypercharge Complete Edition on Steam to show my support."
Oh, thank you so much.
It's the gentleman who sent in the comment earlier that you wanted to provide a code for. So a lot of people already call bits now on the.
Oh, is that the person who bought?
Yeah, it's the same.
Oh, does he still want an Xbox code?
If so, let us know. Otherwise,
so
we will be, like Dutch said, we will be giving away copies next week anyway. So for the community.
Oh, that's so incredibly kind. Thank you so much. It's really, really kind.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. All right. So where were we? There we were. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my notes. So AOK Ski writes in and says, "Obviously, I'm eager to hear your thoughts on Hellblade 2. He personally loved it. So Dutch, we shared our thoughts at the very beginning of the show.
Yes.
But Joe, I assume you didn't have the time so close to launch to play Hellblade 2, but you've probably seen a couple of things. Anything you want to share on Hellblade 2 and your thoughts?"
So I'll be completely honest. I don't know too much about it other than it looks visually like wow, I never understood the first one. I remember hearing lots about it. I never understood what type of game it was. It doesn't look like my type of game personally, but it looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. The sound design, everything looks so good. I was watching. There was a YouTuber who I was watching, funny enough, in the background last night on one of my monitors, and I did see a lot of like. I was waiting for times for a lot of gameplay, and then I'd come back in an hour and I'd skip through, and it seems to be a lot of like, unless it's the wrong word, like cinematic things happening. Again, it looked really amazing. So I don't know if it's like a cinematic gameplay experience or if it's raw game. I don't know too much about the game, but from what I've seen, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
I'd love to try it because I think it would be an experience where I'd walk away feeling mesmerized.
Yeah,
because it looks so good. Like I've seen some of the combat mechanics, and it looked kind of scripted in a way, but not like it looks so real. I was like, wait, what? This is amazing. So I'm it's something I need. It's on my. It's like a bucket list for me. That game. I need to just try it to experience it.
Yeah.
It does look really, really good. Is it about 8 hours or 6 hours or something?
6.5 hours.
It took me about
6.5 to get through a regular playthrough.
All the different difficulties.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can select difficulties as well. Yeah, anything from easy to hard. So you've got that option. in terms of the audio,
And
that's
you can
by,
choose dynamic.
Yeah.
I chose dynamic, whatever that does.
Yeah, it kind of
Dynamic
scales the enemies
difficulty.
depending on the time, I think, or where you are in the game. So
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, if you're killing them really quick, it might get
yeah.
more difficult.
But we've got binaural audio, which is obviously so it's all encompassing. So they recommend wearing headphones.
Yeah.
Did you have headphones on then when you played?
Yes, the entire
It's
thing. Yeah.
really immersive.
Yeah,
Extremely. Yeah,
it's
like they
insanely
set the
good.
bar for immersion in terms of that. But
Have
it is the way you've described it. It is an experience as it is anything else. To be fair, it's it
I'm not
does
saying it's
all
not
look
a game,
cinematic.
it's just from what I saw.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
it does all look cinematic, but that's the entire thing's been mocapped, including all of the fight scenes have been mocapped.
Oh, wow.
Which why it took them so long to roll it out, because of course during the pandemic they couldn't do any mocap, so
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
pretty much paused it at that
Everyone.
point. So no, the entire thing, all the facial animations, all the characters have been mocapped with full facial cameras and everything. So everything is it's hyper real.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a deep experience, very visceral. And when you experience it, it will be one of those where you might have to take a breather, because it's based around mental health and psychosis.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychosis. So
Is that-
Senua
is
has
that-
psychosis,
it's
and she's
based
got
on,
voices
okay.
in her head and things that are all encompassing. So when you're wearing the headphones, you hear all of these conflicting voices.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll get you.
Yeah. Intense.
Yeah.
That's cool, though. Is it a bit of a positive spin on mental health then, does it, in its own way? Or is it more of you see what I'm saying? Like, is there some message it gives?
Oh yeah, lots of mess. So the first one, the first Hellblade that was released way back, was obviously Senua is essentially Nordic or Norse. She's going against the Vikings who've pillaged her land and killed her lover, and she's going to kind of redeem his soul from hell. So she's got these whole conflicting things and battling her own demons and psychosis that say she can't do it and things like that, and she fights against that in order to kind of portray that. The second one's a little bit different. She's kind of got control of her psychosis a little bit, but she comes across other characters that also have their demons, and then it's overcoming them in the second one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to play it.
Yeah,
You get me excited talking about it.
Definitely. Yeah.
What is
It
this thing that?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's this thing I've seen about. Again, typical internet. I see these things like Horizon. I think that's is it a Steam, PlayStation game? I don't know. Comparing like the graphics and
Yeah.
stuff. Are they completely different games? Isn't
Yeah.
Horizon like some
Right,
Yeah,
MMOs?
Horizon
massively
is-
open world dinosaur hunt.
World-
Like,
Why are they comparing
I
that
don't
to
know.
that? Have you seen? They are doing it out there. I've seen so many people like getting pictures of comparisons, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
yeah, it's tribalism again. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
The one is a PlayStation exclusive, the other one is an Xbox exclusive. So it is what it is. And I said it earlier in the show. I feel like it always comes down to with what expectations you're going into a game. If you play Hypercharge with the expectation of getting the next Call of Duty, you're gonna be disappointed. Yeah, and Hellblade is not an open world game. It is a very linear, story-driven game. It's similar here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. The last question of the day comes in in German from Gurkensalat, which means cucumber salad. And it's more like a question to us, Dutch. He asks, how do we prepare the podcast?
Oh. Yeah, especially when we usually have normally it would be like two separate podcasts. Recently we've been just doing the two podcasts on the same day, so it's a little bit easier for the both of us with work and things. But usually that it does take a bit of time. Obviously we've got to research the topics. Not only we've got to research the topics, but have a full understanding of what we're talking about before we do it. Then organize, if we are organizing guests, lining up times and organizing the times for the guests. We've got overlays, gameplay captures. We've got to make sure the graphics, the thumbnails are all done in time. Of course, in terms of that, then afterwards, timestamps, and then we've got to put it onto audio platforms. But ultimately, a lot of it is just prepping a lot of the research behind the topics we're going to be talking about. If it's games, then of course make sure we've played the games we're going to be talking about in depth, so we can have a full and thorough discussion about them. But yeah, a lot of it's just loads of research, and then graphics and overlays and intros and outros, and things like that. So
stuff like that. Yeah. More the boring part.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But yeah, and then usually we meet a little bit up front before the podcast, just see how everyone is doing. But usually we don't script out our conversations. Like it's more like we don't do that. It's more like we have some topic we want to talk about, and since we're good friends, the conversation usually comes naturally. So
There's also as well, Dutch said, for guests like myself, he said he said he was going to send loads of like snacks.
They're in the post. I can't. Sorry, they didn't get there on time.
Yeah. Care packages.
Yeah. Loads of Kit Kats or something. Mars.
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to the end of the show. Joe, it has been an absolute blast to have you on.
Likewise.
We can really tell the passion and excitement you have for Hypercharge. And of course, the upcoming release is something exciting, something you guys been working for very hard and for a long time. So we really appreciate it. We can only imagine how busy you are just right a couple of days before the launch, and you still found the time to come on here, talk with us about the game. Super appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for asking. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And I want to say a quick shout out as well to another super chat that come in. You put a message in the chat, then a super chat, but it was for you, Joe. And it's from IGS, a $2.99 super chat there, and he said, "I have been following you on Instagram for ages, and I must say you guys are making my dream come true. To gaming, I will always support you with all you're doing. To Hypercharge Unboxed, cannot wait."
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, dude. That's amazing to hear. It really is.
Awesome. So, yeah, I also want to say a big thank you to, of course, our awesome community, everyone who tuned in here today and talked with us about Hypercharge and all the other stuff in the beginning of the show. Of course, also a big shout out to our listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and Dutch, we are growing on Amazon Music. We had like a 500% growth. We have now 6 followers on Amazon Music.
Yeah. See the downfall of Google brings its upsides.
Yeah. So definitely a big shout out to those guys. Now that Google Podcast is no more, I feel like people are moving over. The 3 followers we had on Google Podcast moved over to Amazon Music.
Nice.
Yeah. Big shout out to Spotify and Apple Podcasts is where most people are listening. We've been growing there quite well, and we rarely appreciate it because we always interact live, of course, with the YouTube chats. But this is also an awesome community. So thank you guys for tuning in on the podcast services. And of course, we will be back next week. But Dutch, we have to talk about that after the show. We might have to move the podcast from Thursday to Friday or so.
Okay. Are you away again?
I am away again. I'm in Munich. Not for fun reasons though.
No,
so for work reasons. And I'm not sure if I will be back on Thursday, but I'm not sure when I will be back. So it could be that we have to move the podcast a day next week. But we'll talk about that and let you guys, of course, know on the social channels when we're gonna have the podcast next week. So, but again, Joe, big thank you, and I hope that the launch goes smooth. Good luck with that. We will be giving away a couple of copies, like Dutch said, next week. And again, big thank you. It's been an absolute blast to have you on.
Yeah, no, thank you as well. Thank you to all the listeners, all the super chats, kind comments, and everybody who's just listened as well and not commented. It means a lot. And I really hope you get some enjoyment from the game when it launches. I really do. And if you don't like it, that's completely fine. Just don't leave a negative review. I'm joking. No, no. Thank you to everybody. Yeah, it really does mean a lot. Honestly, I sound like a broken record when I say that, but it honestly it means a lot. It really does.
We'll have to get to get a co-op stream sorted with you, Joe, and we'll play the game together at some point after launch.
Oh yeah, we'll arrange that definitely. Yeah, for sure.
100%.
I will be a bit more. It probably will seem like I'm going to be more busy launch. Post-launch week? I think I might have more time. It's always the build-up which I find is busier, so I might have a bit more free time afterwards because everybody's then playing the game. The reviews are going to be out. It'll be a bit of might have more time, so we'll definitely organise something. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff.
Yeah. All right, Dutch. Any last words from your side before we close the show?
No, I don't think so. No, I'm just looking forward to this was the big indie game that I was looking forward to for the end of the month as well. So it was Hellblade. Now that's Hellblade's done now, and we've got Hypercharge coming next week. So Hypercharge is a nice one to round out the month, and I'm looking forward to playing that. So yeah, we'll be doing streams on there and for the community as well. Obviously, when people have got the game, we'll be doing community nights on Hypercharge as well. So we're gonna have some fun. But yeah. Thank you again, Joe. Yeah. It's been an absolute blast, and thank you for joining.
Thanks again.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
See you later.
I see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.